rhythm flow from the hard streets to the studio glow. Tune in, feel the pulse of the scene. It's more than a show, it's the in-between. We talk weekly, we talk weekly, we talk weekly. Yeah. It's more than a show, it's the in-between. We talk weekly, we talk weekly, we talk weekly. Yeah. It's more than a show, it's the in-between. Turn it down, we're live tonight. Stories that spark and set minds alight. City beats flow through the stream. Road talk, no cap, it's more than a dream. Mics on fire, we're breaking the mold. Voices rise and life stories told. We talk weekly, it's the vibe we share. Plug in, lean back, feel the air. We talk weekly, let the rhythm flow from the hardest streets to the studio glow. Tune in, feel the pulse of the scene. It's more than a show, it's the in-between. We talk weekly, we talk weekly, we talk weekly. Yeah, yeah. It's more than a show, it's the in-between. Talk weekly, we talk weekly, we talk weekly, we talk weekly. Talk weekly, it's more than a show, it's the in-between.
We Talk Weeklies after the talk on WPPMLP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We Talk Weeklies after the talk with your boy Charles Gregory and the beautiful
Classy Lady Sparkle.
and the beautiful.
Tanisha Henry.
And we are definitely in the building today. Before we do anything, right? We gotta ask you ladies, how was your day? But let's talk a little bit about this rain that swooped in and it's cold, this little chill. That's crazy. I would love for the weather to get better for a change and stay that way for a while. Can we please have that? You know what I mean? But as that said, go ahead, classy lady. How was your day? How was your day?
It was cool. I appreciate you letting us do virtual today because of the weather. I mean, one thing you could say is when you're from Philadelphia, it can snow in the springtime. Like, do y'all remember when it was snowing in, I think it was
Yeah,
April.
yeah,
I can't remember how many years ago it was, but it was literally snowing. So
yeah,
it's just like, like I say, if you can make it here, I don't care. You can make it anywhere. You get all
yeah.
four seasons and highs and lows of them. So, but my day was good. I had a chill day. I ran some errands. I had a chill day. It wasn't not too bad.
Okay. All right. All right. What about you, T? Holla at us. Holla at us. Yeah.
Man, so I'm a Leo, so like I'm a
She
cat.
said, man.
Rest, laying down, chilling out, and I don't like rain.
Mm,
So I was so
Mm.
very grateful to when we switched gears and did virtual. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
absolutely.
Today was about just getting my life together, getting ready for tomorrow. I try to make it to church on Sunday, so I had to get my clothes out, but I got a baby shower tomorrow, and I'm trying to make sure I got all that together because they done gave us a dress code for the baby shower.
What?
We not the ones being
Wow.
born or celebrated. Why we got a dress code? So I had to go get a whole outfit to match this theme, shoes, purse, everything. Like I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Spent just as much money on the outfit that I did for the gifts. Like that's not cool.
Ah,
What's
man.
the dress code?
Nude, so like all flesh tone colors. Like what we about to be doing?
Mm.
It's
Mm.
I think it's a boy, but okay, if that's what y'all into, whatever. Like it's like an hour away. So I just came from the gas station right before we left. Like,
Sheesh.
We gotta talk about that though, because that's like even people are doing it for their weddings. They're like, hey, it's a theme. You gotta wear certain colors. When did you're the fashion designer? See, when did that start?
I don't know. I got a problem with that. Like this is the reason why I say don't invite guys. I mean, guys have been going to baby showers lately. I'm not sure if I guess to support the mother who's about to have a baby, but when it comes to baby showers and stuff, like leave us out of that. Like that's that's for y'all to enjoy yourself and have a great time. Leave the gentleman out. I mean, we come to help you, I guess, set up and pack up and all that old good stuff. We appreciate everybody, but leave us out of it, man. I don't know where that came from. I don't know where, and everything is getting bigger, right? And so it used to be,
Yeah.
let's just have it in the house. Now they renting halls and promoting it, and it's like a big part. I just don't. I mean, I guess you want to celebrate and stuff, and I'm not even gonna get into the reveals because the reveals has gotten crazy too.
Mm,
But I don't know what
mm.
this new culture is. I'm lost with it.
But but the baby showers ain't just for the women. Like that stopped a couple years ago. They
Well,
are now both male, older generation too. They are both are in the high rise seats, like the king and queen seats,
oh,
gender reveals and regular baby and the baby showers.
no. Well, y'all can leave me out of it.
But
That's for you.
But
it's
question, do you have to get a present for the gender reveal? I've always just bought like Pampers and stuff, but do you have to buy a present?
I haven't been to one, so I don't know. They probably want one though, that's for sure.
You know that. I thought on the when you have a when you have like I thought you supposed to just bring stuff that they need. Like, don't they have a registry or something that they just
Mm.
send you a
That's
link
the
to?
baby shower. You're getting
Uh,
now you're getting two events. You got the gender reveal, so that's the one that they say what the baby's sex is. So when you go to that, you're I guess bring a gift, and then you have the actual baby shower, which is the registry. But the gender
I'm doing too
reveal,
much.
I usually I guess you just take Pampers. I don't know.
I don't know. I
How
don't
Mhm.
somebody
know.
can tell us.
I don't want to go to nobody gender reveal. I'm
No.
sorry. Just let me know. Let me know, what gender it is so I can get you a gift. I don't need to be coming to a pop in a balloon where it's pink or blue. I just that ain't
Mhm.
Mm,
No, Charles, back to you on not wanting to show up. It's this thing now where it leaves a sour taste in the minds and hearts of the guests because where he at? Where the baby daddy at? Oh, he ain't supporting her. Oh, he ain't in the picture. Oh, she don't got
mhm.
no help today. Don't she need some support? Because usually they have them like right before they do with within 60 days. So if it happens to be you in the high seat, you definitely better be there. But then they don't want to be there by themselves, so they homies be showing up for support too.
Mhm.
that's great. The guys coming because the girls there.
Yeah.
That's probably why they coming. But I mean, you can't. I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole because I'll be telling mind your business. You don't know how you know I ain't paid for the whole thing.
Hmm.
How you know I didn't set up the whole thing for them to come and eat free, but they
Hmm.
telling me what I didn't do. That's what I tell you. I'm just this is old school. Yeah, I'm old
When
school.
they not together, do they come together?
Sometimes.
To what?
Like if
To
they not together, do they still sit together when they having
If they not together,
uh
he ain't coming to a baby shower.
it's
He ain't
usually
coming
his baby shower. It's for him too.
for who?
I've seen it now where it's not just for the woman, it's for both male and
It's
female. It's for both
it's
of them.
no guy on. I mean, anybody watching can correct me, but there was no gentleman out there talking about I'm having a baby shower. I want like I'm planning a baby shower for me, especially if I ain't with her. There's no guy on this planet that's doing it.
No,
I
now
mean, I
I
could be
agree
wrong.
with okay, if you're using verbatim, no, they're not saying that, but they are inviting, yo, you coming to my baby shower. I have had
Mhm.
four,
Look. There
five
you go. Look,
men.
I ain't the only one. He said, "Oh hell nah." He
No,
ain't no.
wait. Homie, no, listen, I don't know if
Ain't
it's
no
y'all
nobody's
generation, but
doing
they
no
not doing
guys.
what? Let me get clarity. They're not doing what?
There's no guy out there planning a baby shower. He's only coming because he's being made to go.
I
His
agree.
baby, the baby mom or his wife or whatever position she claims is, I need you there. I want you there. I need help or whatever. If he's helping her because she's maybe 9 months pregnant, I get it. Like that makes sense. But is nobody coming because they're excited to be at no guy is
That
doing it.
okay, I agree with that, but I disagree when you said they're not inviting their homies and friends. They are
I didn't say they
absolutely
wasn't inviting. No,
oh,
because
I
I'm
thought you was
sure it's
like,
the
ain't
girls
nobody
there, the
saying that
guys.
they
I'm telling
yeah,
the
he's
only reason why
yes.
their
Okay.
friends are coming because the guy is just saying like, "Yo, I don't want to be there. I need y'all to come with me. I'll
Okay.
probably be the only guy there. Yo, I need y'all to roll up." That's how that's happening.
I'm I'm
But
in agreement with that.
no, that's why they having open bars and stuff because they need something to do while they there, and then it'll be ladies there. So that's how they get them in the door. But this started, I feel like after they started having joint bachelor and bachelorette parties. Like
Oh my
everybody showed up.
Now that I don't know about.
My sister had one a decade
Ain't
ago.
no way.
For a long time.
A
We was all
combined bachelor and bachelorette party.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
I,
haven't been to one.
hold on 1 second. I need to put them in jail real quick. Hold on. They gotta get put in jail. Ain't no.
The story is baloney. You people must be idiots. What are you doing? Are you people out of your mind? Are you just dull-witted?
Ain't no way to. Ain't no way. Ain't no
Hey,
way.
wildin'.
Oh, ain't no way. No fiance, husband, wife having a joint bachelor party with strippers. They had strippers and everything.
Absolutely.
They have to be. Are they swingers?
Wait, but
I don't think they was, but I see it a lot. Like it became normal for me.
Look, he said they wildin'. Ain't no way.
oh, wait, I never heard of that one. That's new to me. I've never heard of
hold
The
up.
story is baloney. You people must be idiots. What are you doing?
Ain't no way. Ain't
I
no
actually
way.
like that better, especially back then I was single. Like, I didn't want to be in a room full of women doing girly stuff. I want to be out having a good time with other people there to mix and mingle with, guys, whatever. Like, that was fun.
She's such a Leo.
Ain't no way.
Cause I can dig that. Like, wait, why you want to be all with the girlies and like let's all mingle, have fun, dance. I don't want to just dance with y'all. I want to dance with some dudes. Like, I get it.
Exactly.
I just
Ain't
never,
no-
I never been to one.
The story is baloney. You people must be idiots. What?
Ain't no way. Ain't no way. I could never. I could never.
I want to hear
That
about people doing.
You watching your future wife. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. I don't see unless y'all
I
swing
want to
that
see
way.
one.
Now we
That's
was
the-
at one where at the club where all the dancers were female because the guys definitely wasn't going for like a mixed crowd or where the guys were male. So everybody was there watching the females.
Okay.
Mm. But when you say they was watching the females, I don't understand that. Like, you mean that the guys were with the women
Watching female
women-
dancers, not male entertainment, because the guys wouldn't come for male entertainment.
right? So what? But did y'all have male entertainment as well?
No, it was no guys at that club. It was all females.
Oh, but the guys came.
Yep.
Oh.
They was in their thick. It was a big crowd. They came out. Okay.
Okay. All right. That's a little bit better than C.
I guess. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they like it, I love it.
Look, look.
You know what else I love?
What?
Some good news and bad news. Holla at me. Here we go.
All right. You just sprung that on me. I wasn't even ready. All right. Some good news and bad news. All right.
Yeah, holla at me.
I don't think landlords are going to like this. Anybody who owns property, especially in Philly, before this was passed, people in Philly was always saying how Philly is more tenant friendly. So again, landlords are not going to like this, but tenants are going to have some rights. The Philadelphia City Council passed a package to reinforce renter protection. In addition to doing that same package, they did an ICE agents package as well on how they operate in the city of Philadelphia. The package requires landlords to provide clearer eviction notices, strengthen tenant rights around unsafe housing conditions, and it expanded the anti-discrimination protections, including protections for immigrants and low-income renters that use housing vouchers. But on the immigrant side, for the ICE out, this is called the ICE out bill, limits the cooperation between city agencies and ICE. It restricts the data sharing and ban ICE agents from wearing masks while operating in the city of Philadelphia. The minority whip, Nicholas O'Rourke, who led the renter protection effort, told residents, "We can't say thank you enough. I know it was a risk, and I thank you for being bold." Supporters say that this is about safety and stability, but not everyone agrees. Councilmember Jeffrey Young warned small business owners are going to be forced out of the market, raising concerns about mom and pop landlords. So Mayor Sherelle Parker is expected to sign both bills, but legal challenges, especially around the ICE restrictions, could be next. So what does this mean for you as a renter in Philly? It means that you have new protections which could impact the evictions, the lease terms, and living conditions. So if you want help to understand your rights better, you can always call the Philly Tenant Hotline at 267 443 2500, or you could visit phila.gov/renters.
Fantastic. I got kicked out for a minute. So I missed part of your story, but I'm curious. So are you saying that renters don't have to worry about evictions after a certain time, or what happens?
They can now fight it if you have a slumlord, basically, is what they're saying. So if it's a landlord who is not fixing up the property, doing astronomical rent increases, the tenant now has more rights for protection that they can't just unhouse them. It's going to take a
Mm,
whole lot longer. It took a lot longer initially. Like people was in their houses for a long time in Philly. Guess what?
mm.
It even got longer. So
You
now there's go ahead.
no, I was saying that that I get that, and that's actually I like the fact that they're looking out for renters. The only problem with that is I've been hearing a lot of issues with squatters, right? And if it was taking a long time to get squatters out, I'm wondering how long it's going to take now. I mean, they have
It's
rights. I'm not. I mean, counselor, I'm not sure if that's your ecosystem that you're within, but trying to get a squatter out and the legalities based around it is kind of like they're giving them rights to stay even longer now.
and T, I'm gonna give you the floor, but squatters are now going to be considered tenants if they are able
Oh my
to
God.
get into the home and stay a certain amount of time or have like any type of subscription or mailing, then they are no longer squatting. They're considered a tenant now. But go ahead, Esquire. Some information.
Jeez.
Thank you, Sparkles, because that's what I was going to ask. If this new change gave squatters more rights and made them more like renters, so with that being the answer, there you go, Charles. It's going to be much more difficult. Um,
Jeez.
the what we learned about in law school wasn't necessarily squatters' rights, but called adverse possession, and it's different in different states. And it's basically legalized theft of your place of abode, your house, your property. In Pennsylvania, I believe it's 20 years. If you occupy someone else's residence for 20 years and you do things like you can show that you cared for the property, upgraded the property, or like Sparkle said, had some utilities and maintained it for them 20 years, and someone now wants to come get their property back, they done already lost the fight. It's a win for the person who's been there for 20 years. It's 10 years
Wow.
in other states and even less, but that is legalized theft of people's homes. So
Wow.
I don't see this as a surprise that squatters got bumped up in the ranks to renters, and that it's even easier now to possess people's properties.
T, I
I
want to
feel.
ask you a
Yeah.
question.
Go ahead.
What about where, as far as like, there's a house that my mother left me and she's passed on, and it's not occupied at the time, but I put up a lot of like no trespassing, that kind of stuff. Does that help the person who owns the property as far as legality wise because they had visible signs to say don't occupy the space?
So it'll be considered, but it's kind of low if that's the only evidence against the person who has maintained utilities, has somehow started paying in the community or taxes. Because the owner kind of puts up an abandonment front. You didn't check on the property. You did not mow the lawn. When the windows were broken, you didn't do things like that. When the water bills was, piling up, you didn't do anything. You didn't come by. You didn't make any efforts. You didn't make a peep. those signs alone is not going to be sufficient enough to win the battle against the laws that promote adverse possession.
Wow.
Mm, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, there was I can find a clip a little later. I'll probably send it to you guys offline, but at one of the meetings there was you could tell he owned properties. He was yelling and screaming. Did you see it?
Absolutely. He went off.
Yes. He went off because as I said in in my bit that it's going to I think harm or hurt the small business of the mom and pop landlords.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. But the reason that they have that new policy or is because there's a lot of slumlords too. You have some of these high rises where, you know, Miss Johnson, Grandma Johnson have to walk up like 8 flights of steps because they refuse to spend the money to fix the elevator, right? And so,
mhm.
I mean, it's kind of like six in one hand, half a dozen in the other. Who do we protect? Do we protect the businessmen, the small businessmen, or do we protect the businesses? I mean, the citizens. And that's questions that America is going through right now, right? Is it big business or is it the people? Power to the people or power to big corporate America? Which one is it, right? And so that's the conversation we've been having, that America is having right now. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my
So
issue with landlords, and I do know a lot of landlords, and I do sympathize with them. I see how it breaks them down emotionally, even causing to the point of health issues. How it does impact their businesses and ability to move on. But there are certain requirements that landlords have to follow to give what's called like basic housing, basic needs. That there's the electric is operable, the water is running, that people have clean, safe environments, that don't have holes and openings for rats and rodents to move in. And they got to keep their licensing up and things to code, just as you do in the home that you actually own. So my question to landlords is always, would you live here? Would you live like your tenants are
That
living?
part.
Is this
Mhm.
base? Is it suitable? And too many times the answer is no. So I wonder, like, how do you sleep at night when you got people paying you to live like almost like they're on the street, almost like they don't matter, like they're less than? Why don't they have their basic needs being met? Why is there an issue with lead? Why is there an issue with mold that can affect their lungs and the lungs of their children and can cause health issues that last a lifetime? Why don't these things matter to you? If you're in the business of providing housing, can you just do it the right way? That's my only question.
yeah. And I think the pushback would be the landlords who are the good ones who are providing good, livable accommodations, and then people aren't paying, they're trashing it. And so yeah. But I know a lot of property owners in Philly that are good friends, and they are like they went out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
I
just
Real
went
don't
quick.
out.
blame them because we
Yeah.
were already tenant friendly. And now the eyes were scales have tipped again more in favor of them. So they are fighting an uphill battle. I don't blame them. It's a seller's market. If that's where you are, it's a great time to sell. Go ahead and make your money and cash out and reduce your
Mhm.
stress.
Yeah, and to that point, you have people like you have a few actors, A-list actors that's selling their properties. I mean, they're losing millions and millions of dollars right now because it's a seller's market right now. And, of course, we blame that on the pandemic. There was a lot of money with building and selling. But what happened was they built too fast and built too much. Now they can't sustain them. Look, how much does food cost now? I mean, are you willing to scale down so you can feed your family? Or are you willing to, drip a little bit and splurge, and now you have a domain that you can't afford. So yeah, that's where we at.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
All right. This next story is about a good thing about what Philly's going through. So we talked about how it tipped towards being more tenant friendly. Well, it also tipped where crime is down. So Philadelphia is seeing something that we haven't witnessed in about 60 years. According to a new report by Pew Charitable Trust, the city recorded 222 homicides in 2025, the lowest since 1966, and down nearly 60% from 2021's peak. That was around the pandemic when the city hit a record 562. Shootings have also dropped below 1,000 for the first time in over 20 years. But here's what's interesting. It's not just the homicides that drop. Shootings drop nearly 25%, and then gun robberies are down over 20%. Police are solving more cases with over 60% of homicides that are cleared, one of the highest rate in years. Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel put it plainly. It's about fewer families experiencing loss, but progress alone is not enough. The numbers don't mean that the work is done. End quote. So what's working? Officials say that it's a team effort with the police, the community groups, and the prevention programs that are all stepping in. Unfortunately, the poverty of unemployment are still high, which I believe is a part of the uptick in the crime. But the poverty of unemployment is still high. So this is especially in the Northwest and Southwest Philadelphia areas. More than 300,000 residents are still living at or below the poverty line. So if you want more information on this or resources, you can always call 311 or you can always visit phila.gov.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's actually great.
But they still haven't raised the minimum wage. Like,
That's crazy to me. That's crazy. I don't know. $15 at this point is nothing.
it's still yes.
We should be asking for like 17, 18 now. As long as we've been asking.
It should be 20.
I know. I'm just saying.
It's like, yeah. But I feel like I think what it is that they don't want to make it where the small business suffers. So if a small business owner, as a business owner myself, I think I was paying $16 an hour for my staff, and I think that when you have multiple people, that might suffer where you have to be locked in, and that's probably why they have that the price point there, so you can go up, but it's not a ceiling where you have to start from. Possibly.
Interesting.
All right, this last story is very devastating. It's this isn't a Philly focused story, but it is a story that I believe everyone heard about. It's a devastating tragedy in Shreveport, Louisiana, and it's being called one of the deadliest family mass shootings in recent U.S. history. Police identified the gunman as Shamar Elkins. The victims were 8 children. 7 of those victims were his own, and 1 was his nephew. There were 3 boys and 5 girls, ages 3 to 11, and there were 2 women, including his wife, who were critically injured. The shooting happened before sunrise on a Sunday between 2 homes in Shreveport. It was in the area of just south of downtown. And the investigators are saying that the motive appears to be tied to domestic situation. Elkins and his wife were reportedly separating, and they were scheduled for court the next day. Police said that there were no previous signs or no recent signs of domestic violence that was on file, so it didn't raise any questions for any type of domestic warnings. Authorities say that Elkins, he shot 1 woman at 1 home, and then his wife, and then another at another house. 1 child did try to escape and did jump from the roof and did survive. Elkins fled after the shooting, which led the police on a chase that ended with the police shooting him, and they ultimately killed him. Did you all hear about that story?
I did.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear about that. Wow.
No, see, yeah, it was really sad, and again, I believe the family was breaking up, and I'm not sure. More information is, it's still under investigation. But it wasn't a homicide, suicide. The police actually killed the shooter, which was the father and the husband. So, Esquire, did you hear any other information on that?
No, I didn't. When I saw it, I was like, because the episode that we did with the domestic violence, and I'm like, here's another one. And to me, this is the greatest tragedy because of the amount of numbers of the people who passed and how they were his own children and another young relative. And then
Yeah.
some of the captions are about mental health, which we also talked about being the underlying or underscore for events that happen like this. And sometimes they come without warning. Everyone's mental health episode does not result in violence. So how do you tell, or how do you connect the dots when the escalation is going to become violent? And if you don't know, sometimes the signs are there, which is why I kept saying call the hotlines, call the hotlines, because they can educate you on the subtle forms of abuse so that you'll know this is a red flag. And if this happens or that happens, this is a point of escalation. Because it's subtle at first, and slowly, gradually, you'll see things happening, and it's still not enough for you to be like, "Oh my gosh, something is happening." But if you are aware of what you should look for, you'll know this is a point of escalation, and it's probably better to do away with this now than to wait for the next point of escalation.
Yeah. And one thing you mentioned about the signs, they're going to court the next day. So
Right.
court was because evidently someone, wasn't in agreement. So it wasn't something that they were able to agree together. And the other sad part is that the mother survived, but all of
Yeah.
her children are gone.
Uh,
Ah,
Mhm. So that's the thing about domestic violence is a lot of the statistics talk about the point of separation being the most dangerous part, just getting away. And that's why so many people choose to stay in their situations, because an attempt or effort to make a mad dash or make an escape can result in tragedies like death. And so, again, there are organizations out there that will help plan strategically so that someone's not being made aware or on notice or on alert that you're planning your exit or that at the time of your exit. Exit strategies do require help, as we can see. Going to court was not sufficient for this. A different exit strategy needed to occur.
well, as T mentioned, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, I have that number listed. It's 1-800-799-7233. God bless that family.
yeah.
Mhm.
And that was your good news and your bad news from Classy Lady Sparkle.
And that was your good news and bad news by Classy Lady Sparkle. I'm your boy Charles Gregory, the beautiful.
Class Sparkle.
And you froze. And the beautiful.
Tanisha
I
Henry.
know.
Yeah, I knew it was going to happen. It's all good. But next, we have someone with whom we have a tremendous amount of respect for. We talked a little bit about government. We're going to get a little bit more and deeper into the conversation. Classy lady, you want to let us know who do we have today? Who do we have today?
I want to make sure I pronounce her name correctly. How do you pronounce her name, Charles? Do you know?
I believe it's Lucia. Lucia. I believe that's right.
Lucia. Okay.
She can
Lucia
correct us,
Simo.
though. We want to make sure that we get our name
Okay.
correct. Mhm.
Okay. Lucia Simonelli is a Pennsylvania 1st District congressional candidate from Lansdale, a mathematician with a PhD who has taught and conducted research internationally. Yes, that's what I said. A former U.S. Senate science advisor, and she brings a data-driven, problem-solving approach to policy and is running to challenge corporate influence and advocate for working families. Y'all already know what to do. Let's give a warm We Talk Weekly to Lucia.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. It's so
Fantastic, fantastic. Before we start, we would love to make sure that we pronounce your name correctly. How do you pronounce your name?
honestly, people call me different things, but my parents say it Lucia, like the Italian way.
Ah, Lucia. Okay, we got
Yes,
that
like
one.
that.
Lucia.
My dad is Italian, and he wanted a name he felt he could pronounce. So that's the one.
I love that.
I love it.
No doubt, no
Well,
doubt.
thanks for having me. Yeah, this is awesome to be on the show.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming in. I'm sure you heard a little bit of what we've been talking about and some of the news that we've been covering. So we definitely want to jump into some of those topics. But first, right, we want to jump into you, right, and talk a little bit about the things that you're doing and where you got to this point today, right? So I want to back up and talk about a little of your background and stories, and we should actually be calling you doctor, right?
Nah.
Doctor. Okay, all right.
No, Lucia's better.
Lucia is better,
Yeah,
no doubt.
yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about, your background and your studies and what got you into the fight. And I love this Bernie behind you because I was definitely a Bernie
Yes.
fan. Yes, shout out to
Yes.
Bernie. But I love to hear, what got you motivated to, for the most part, fight for the people.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Lansdale, so not too far away from Philadelphia. My father immigrated to this country in the 80s. And, when I was growing up, my parents worked wage labor jobs and we didn't have health insurance and, relied on a lot of things like public transport and public libraries, public parks. And, I was listening earlier. We had a slumlord. That was a bad situation. And, the thing that saved my family and helped me immensely was just being able to have public education. And going to public schools and public universities was such a lifeline for us. And, eventually, as you mentioned, I got a PhD in mathematics. And, that opened a lot of doors for me. But I think having that experience of the weight of not knowing how you're going to afford the next bill, or that fear of what happens when I get sick, like I should try not to go to the doctor because you don't know what that bill is going to be, like that.
Yeah.
That's something that creates a lot of stress and tension for a family, and sometimes, I don't know, that it affects mental health too. And I think that, I'm so fortunate now to feel stable. But I think we're facing a moment where fewer and fewer people feel that way, and services are getting cut, and there's wealth and power that's distributed just like for a few people. You talked about the influence of corporations and how we're kind of grappling with, do we choose them or do we choose the people? And, I'm kind of tired of the average net worth of a congressperson being over $1 million, because that is not representative of most of our experiences. And if you're going to be making decisions for people, I think it's good if you know where they're coming from. So I think it's motivating for a lot of us to want to see more people that have lived lives or have experiences more like ours.
I love that. Go ahead, Spark.
I'm glad you said that in regards to just like the working families. Like, do you see that there's a problem in regards to like policy, and is that hurting the working families? Like, what's failing working families the most?
Yeah. Our system is set up to reward the people that already have money and the people that already have power, because they have the ability to influence politics to keep it that way. And you mentioned I had the privilege of having a fellowship to work in Congress as an advisor, and what I saw is that the amount of influence from corporations and from lobbyists in the process is alarming. Like, policy to a large extent is bought, and of course that's not going to be in the best interest of most of us. And I think that is, we're seeing that even one of the motivators for me in this race in particular was healthcare. I think we're seeing premiums rise. We're seeing people go without, just because it's completely unaffordable. And there's still a reticence, even in the Democratic Party, to talk about universal healthcare. And it's because big healthcare, big pharma, big hospital, it's not in their best interest to have a public option or to have Medicare for all, because that would mean that their profits would be smaller. So they influence not just the policy, but the narrative that people feel comfortable saying when they're running for office, because they still want to get those campaign contributions. And I think you talked about this too with Rob Strickler and Letitia, because he was also running in my race, and he was really big about, we got to get that big money out of elections.
Hmm. Interesting. So, for those who don't know, why don't you let everyone know? One, let's start with your campaign so everyone knows, and then we'll go back to some other questions because I want to be able to get this out and have a conversation because I know people will be watching. And so, what motivated you to actually run? Because you're running for Congress, and let's talk a little bit about what you're running on your campaign and kind of your composition and opposition right now.
Yeah. Um, yeah, this is definitely like an artifact of the moment. This was not like, oh, I've always wanted to run for office, but I think we're all doing some weird things and finding ourselves in weird places in 2025, 2026. So I think, yeah, it's like, what do we do now? So I think what I really want to see is Congress take their power back. I think if Congress were acting responsibly and with a spine right now, we wouldn't have, there would be a checks and balance like we're supposed to have. So we really need to flip the House. But we need to flip the House not just with Democrats, but with Democrats who are going to fight and who are going to do the right thing and who are going to stand up. And I feel like right now, even the Democratic Party is being a little bit too weak. So I think I was motivated because what I was seeing was still that same brand of, I'm going to try to be moderate. I'm going to avoid saying things that I think the Republicans might not like, or, and it was like, I think in this moment, what we're ready for is just people that say it like it is, like people that are just going to tell you what they believe, and they're not going to be thinking about what the consultant said was strategic and, just like, what do you think? Like, who are you? Who am I voting for? And to your other question, well, I want universal health care because I think healthcare is a human right. Just like I think everyone should have public education, I think everyone should have healthcare. My half of my family lives, in Italy. They don't know what a monthly premium is. They don't know what medical debt is. They don't know what denial of coverage is. Like, they think it is so inhumane the way that our healthcare system is over here that, and it's not like we don't have the resources for it. So I think that's one thing that's really front and center for me. Another thing is, we're facing a lot of, in this state, data centers, and they're being like pushed on our communities in ways that, remind me of other industries like fracking for natural gas, like chemical plants, right? And usually, frontline communities are the ones that get disadvantaged because they don't have the voices to speak out, and they're not given the opportunity for that public participation or community engagement before it happens. And so it's another instance where I feel like we're being sold out for the money of big tech. And so I'm also running on putting a little bit of a pause on that so we can figure out how to protect our communities and also protect our communities from the future of AI, because I think we're facing a situation here of an emerging technology that's not being regulated, and it's going to affect our jobs in ways that, and our society at large in ways that we don't even know yet. And we're just kind of like letting it roll without any kind of, with any regulation at all. So I think that's a second thing. A third thing for me is also, my father is an immigrant, and the situation that's going on with ICE right now is, really personal. And I think it's bigger than, I think the immigrant community has been used, and it was used in the 2024 election as this way of creating fear, just because it was like, it's a group to target because it's a way of creating us versus them. And, we're feeling a lot of things in this country. We're feeling an affordability crisis. We're feeling in some, the crime rates, which you had some good news about that for Philadelphia, but I think ultimately crime is tied to when people don't have basic needs, right? When people aren't able to lead a dignified life. And the real cause of that is like corporate greed and, too many billionaires that have power. But it's easy to blame a group that has little power and make people afraid of them. And then you create this situation where it becomes violent. And I think we need to get rid of ICE. I think we need to abolish ICE because you can't fix something that has bad bones. And ICE has bad bones because it was built on this concept of being a fear. And we need an immigration system that's built on hope, because I think immigration is something that we're a country of immigrants, and it's about welcoming people and welcoming different cultures and finding that unity through, our pluralism. So I think those are some issues that are really important and top of mind for us in our campaign.
Yeah. So those are your top three. I actually agree with pretty much all of them. I know that it would appear that you're going to have a uphill battle with all of them pretty much. But I appreciate the fight that you've been given and standing on your own too, to say this is what I believe and this is what I'm going to fight for. The question that I have for you is, when it comes to the Democratic Party, which most people, before I go there, what is your actual party that you're running with?
Yeah, I forgot there was a third part of your question, but I got off on the issues. Yeah. So I am running as a Democrat. I admittedly, after 2016, though, have been an independent for a while, after they broke my heart with Bernie. So, but I'm a Democrat for this race, but I'm not the candidate that was endorsed by the party. So there's two candidates in this primary. The other candidate is the party endorsed candidate. He's the current county commissioner. So he's definitely, better resourced, supported by the establishment. So it's an uphill battle for us, but I think I'm feeling, solidarity in many ways from folks who are kind of tired of that type of politics and have lost trust in it. So I think there's appetite for something different.
No, I appreciate that. That's why I wanted to pause on the question, because now you're running as a Democrat. And what is that like right now with, you not necessarily being, the chosen person, so to speak, but you're still running with acts of, pretty much fighting for the community. What is that fight like for you, especially in the Democratic ecosystem?
Yeah, man, it's been fascinating. I have to say, it's been fascinating to sort of figure out sometimes the establishment is this kind of abstract thing that I complain about. I'm not quite sure, but being in this, I'm getting a real taste and a real understanding of what that structure means and what we're here, what I'm hearing and seeing on the national level. I'm sort of experiencing it in this local context. And one thing to example to bring to light is, so in Pennsylvania, in the primary, if you're running with one of the two major parties, to be on the ballot, you have to get 1,000 unique signatures from people in your district registered with that party. So a person can't sign a petition for different folks. So we have only 3 weeks to do that. It was mid-February to mid-March, bad weather, really, just a tough time to do it. And the party they have this huge endorsement ceremony, their anointment ceremony. They endorse the candidate 4 days into that 3 weeks. Mm. After that point, you're not allowed to go to any of their petition signing events. So they have these huge gatherings where they invite everyone, they sign the petitions, it's streamlined, whatever. So we were boxed out of that for the most part. So we had to do, which, honestly, I think it's in the true spirit of the thing. We had to go knock doors. We had to really show that we could excite the community about having something different. And we ended up getting 1,700 signatures, which was a huge a huge thing. You know, there were 7 campaigns in this primary and only 2 made it through the petition period. So, but just to say that, like, they make it hard, right? They make it hard because they choose someone, they want it to be that person. And after they choose that person, all of their resources go into that. And more recently, what happened is that they release a sample ballot that they send to folks, and they distribute them at the polls on election day. And they listed, you know, they have the name of their endorsed candidates, but they went even further, because the reaction is not just like, okay, well, let her do her thing. It's a bit of resentment, a little bit of vitriol about, like,
from the party.
You? Yeah, like, it's not your turn. Like, what are you doing? How dare you? You know, like, and so they put under my opponent's name, they did not write my name. They wrote unendorsed candidate, and they struck through it.
Wow.
So this is this has been what it's like to run as a Democrat. But you know, we believe in what we're doing, and you know, we say we're a people power campaign because, man, it's really a team thing. Like, we're running for this office. It is not just me running for this office, and that brings me so much joy, is just seeing people and, you know, building a message together in a way that is, I don't know, it feels like, yeah, this is the right thing.
You were a scientific advisor in the U.S. Senate. So tell us more about that. Was that, like, what was the focus? Was it like climate changes? What was the focus with that role?
Yeah, well, I was in mathematics. I was teaching math, and I really decided that I want to work on climate change, because, especially traveling around the world teaching, you know, I saw how the communities that contribute the least to this issue are often impacted the most. And I became really interested in climate and climate justice. And I really think we need all hands on deck for this, because it is like, you know, food prices, for example, right? Like grocery store prices, there's a lot of different factors, but like a lot of that's climate change, because like extreme weather events, or the prevalence of disease because of warming, or droughts, or wildfires, like, it's just disrupting so much. So yeah, I wanted to work on that, and I got a chance to work in Congress, which is awesome, because like that, to fix a problem as big as climate change, you really need public policy. And so I got to work with Senator Whitehouse from Rhode Island, who is really big in climate. And I learned about the legislative process, how frustrating it is, but also how hopeful it is. And just like, you know, do things like, you know, write bills, staff hearings. I got to write a few speeches, which was cool. And, you know, basically also just understand how that mechanism works and who influences it. And that's why I, like, you know, got to see how entrenched some of these special interests are in our process. And also, like, the amazing work that, like, nonprofits do. You know, I work for a nonprofit now in my day job. And, you know, it's nice to see how you can kind of try to counterbalance against some of that corporate power. So yeah, I worked mostly on climate policy, and I got really interested in this type of climate technology, and it's like a lot of different kinds of stuff. But we're at a point now where we need to do more than just like stop emissions. We also need to pull carbon out of the atmosphere and store it somewhere, because like we're not doing the other thing fast enough, and it's kind of already too late to just do that. So I'm working on this other side of it, which is like difficult, but also kind of hopeful, because it's like almost like a waste management. Like, can we clean up the mess that we made, and make this better for future generations?
Yeah, that's gonna be hard to do.
Yeah.
That's gonna be very hard to do.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, so I think, you know, but I like that, and I like the focus on the environmental technology piece that you're mentioning, I do believe when it comes to tech, and especially as it relates to AI, which I'm heavily involved in, I do believe that there need to be guardrails. I do believe that I think the issue, however, is it's moving so fast that policy that has been targeted for one thing as it relates to AI is outdated now, right? And
Totally.
so the question now becomes, what do we strategically, they need some type of strategic initiative with climate and environment as it relates to AI. It needs to be some type of strategic initiative. And I think that's the problem. No one understands what they should focus on, right? And
Yeah.
so that's the issue.
Oh man, shout it from the rooftops. Like yes, like, and okay, so one thing I learned to that point, which like this is a little side pet project, but I'm like, you hit the nail on the head, which is, so they used to have this, Congress has these little side agencies that sort of help them with their work, and they've gotten kind of whittled away over time. They used to have this whole thing. It was called the Office of Technology Assessment. It was like this little agency full of scientists and technical people that would be like, hey, in 10 years, artificial intelligence is going to be a problem. We need to figure out the policy scenarios ahead of time. Here's like what you could do. Here's what needs to be done. Same for climate change, same for pandemics. Like there's a whole archive of all these things that they were working on. That got entirely cut in the 1990s. They had like a Doge of the 1990s that Newt Gingrich led. And he was just like, nah, we don't need that. And that's part of the problem, is like, they don't have those people inside to do that strategic plan. So when they try to find people to help advise them, they're only finding the people, the experts are all in the private sector. But you can't have the experts, you can't be asking the folks you need to regulate how they want to be regulated. So like, yeah, they're missing a lot of that real like evidence, those folks on the inside to give really objective and neutral opinions about things.
Yeah, that's like asking big pharma to give free healthcare, so
Yeah.
no, I get it.
Yeah, like what pill should I take, Big Pharma?
Yeah, 100%. So I wanna push you a little bit, right? Because I know that you're probably getting a lot of this, and I would like to know how you would answer this, right? So if I am a traditional Democrat, right, and I know that you were not, how would you pitch me to feel better about you now representing me as a traditional Democrat?
Yeah, they're a tough crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think, honestly, 2026 is just a different moment. And I think it's hard to even know what, like, traditional is just, it's hard to even know what those words mean anymore, because we're in unprecedented times. And I think that even the traditional Democrats are seeing that the Democratic leadership in Congress, which is that more conventional type of strategy, is not able to confront this situation that we have in the executive branch, right? Like it's not there for the fight. And so I think people are being moved, and I'm seeing success at the doors of being like, yeah, you know what? This moment requires change. This moment requires something different, because this isn't 1990, right? Like this is something completely different. I think another thing is that I have worked in Congress before, and I think that some of the pushback, or some of the perception of maybe some of the things that I like to talk about and that I want to see, is that maybe they're idealistic, or they're naive, or they're radical. But the policymaking process is one of negotiation. And so one should always talk about the outcome, the North Star, the goal, because that anchors you directionally so that you know whatever you negotiate is still making progress towards that. Because you might not always get it all, but you don't start from, like, the Affordable Care Act started wanting to have a public option, and then it got it taken away. So, you start with the dream, and then you make sure that even if it's not exactly that, it's a step towards that. And I've been legislating, I've been creating policy. I know that give and take. And I think trying to, I worked for someone who's Senator Whitehouse is not considered, I think he's considered a pretty traditional Democrat. And I respect him. He's a fighter too. And so I think I am not someone that doesn't understand the process of legislation. And I've been there, and I've worked for someone who's very pragmatic and effective. So, I can bring that experience too, and maybe trying to sway them.
I got you, and I appreciate that's actually a great answer. Go ahead, Sparky.
I was going to say, with that being said, in regards to the upcoming primaries and the voting, what is the hardest truth that voters need to hear now?
The hardest truth. I think the hardest truth is that we've been losing our democracy for a lot longer than just the past year. I think that in particular, I think honestly, from the trickle-down economics paving the way to Citizens United, has been this clawing back of, power, the people power. And it's been slowly accumulating wealth in just a very few folks that end up controlling things and buying things like elections. And so I think the hard truth is, like, our democracy is fragile, more fragile than maybe we realize. And we've seen the erosion happen real fast over the past year, but things have been whittling away at it. And so I think it's just like, we really have to take it back. And we got to do it ASAP.
Yeah. Speaking of people power, right? I want to hone in on a lot of whom you've been representing. And so I want to jump right into Bucks County and Montgomery County.
Mm-hmm.
And those particular counties right now, what do you believe are some of the most urgent issues that particular demographic is facing right now that you believe that you can be in representation of them?
Yeah, I think cost of living is really top of mind for people. Our utility bills are skyrocketing. Like, it's just insane how much the electricity bill is. And so that is one reason why I'm concerned about the data centers, but also a lot of just the bad energy policy. Like, people don't even have reliable electricity up here in Upper Bucks. Like, people sometimes just don't have power. And it's getting worse. And so, there was an apartment building in Montgomery County that didn't have heat for over a month. And this winter was awful. So I think we got to really, and to bring it back to corporate influence, like, the natural gas lobby has such a stranglehold on our politics, even in the state. I think we really need to think about investment in our electricity grid and in, clean energy sources, because I think also that creates jobs for people here, and the prices are not prices that are affected by geopolitics. So what we're seeing at the gas pump, like, we started this horrific and unnecessary war somewhere else, and that affects our prices back home. So I think this is connecting the dots, and what people are paying at the grocery store, at the gas pump, and their utility bills. It's all a question of policy decisions that can really either help it or make it worse. So I think that's what people are feeling strongly. And I appreciate the conversation about housing before. gosh, in our Code Blue shelters here this winter, like there was, a record number of guests, which is not a record you want to see. So it's just, and again, to bring it back, like to how everything's connected, that affects public safety. And I think sometimes when we talk about safety, we're often talking about like treating the symptoms of it. It's like, okay, like this is when we need, that's when we start talking about law enforcement and gun safety, which are important and we definitely have to address. But if we actually had a society where we're caring for people and people can afford things, a roof over their heads and food and a warm bed, and also a society of respect and inclusion. I think there's a lot of hatred and a lot of division, and all of these things contribute to safety. So I think all of this is really top of mind for people because there's an intersectionality here.
I agree with that. There's a lot of candidates who boast fighting for working people, right? That said, what would make your campaign or what you do different than other candidates who say, "Yeah, I'm fight for the people, people power"?
Yeah.
What separates you?
Well, I would say that I believe, how you campaign is a model for how you'll lead. So, what we're doing is, no corporate PAC money. It's money from individuals. In fact, if my opponent's out fundraised us 26-1 because he's focused basically his entire year of campaigning on fundraising. And I don't want to undervalue. Money makes stuff easier, right? Like money makes stuff possible. So like there's money that's needed, but we've been using people have been donating their time and their energy in a way that is like has made this possible without huge sums of money. And so I think that, the Republican incumbent has like over 7 million in the bank for this race. And I just think right now, if we're going to be a trusted voice for working people, we can't be talking about how we're going to try to raise that same amount of money and use that same amount of money for TV attack ads. There was over $10 billion in the 2024 election on TV ads. And we're talking about affordability. So like, I think a little bit, it's like, for any candidate, I want to see that they're practicing what they're preaching, and that starts on the campaign trail.
I love that. None of it makes sense to me. And you can't talk about billions of dollars and then you have people on the street or can't eat. None of this makes sense to me. And, given the platform that I have, I could talk pretty frank about some of the issues I have because I love the people, right? And to that point, because you mentioned public trust, right? So if you know that, the trust that people have for the government now, or even politics, right? Who to believe, what's going on, what's necessary. How do you encourage people to come out to vote, right? How do you argue that it makes sense for you to come out to vote because we're going to help you, but then after that happens, it's kind of like, what did I vote for? What would you tell that person?
Yeah, that's so hard because I feel like I am, I also feel this feeling of like being let down all the time. There'll be this like, oh, this is the time, or like, oh yeah, this is the person, and then like nothing really changes. So I get that, and I think it is dangerous though that so many of us have lost trust in the political process, because ultimately that is a piece of our democracy that is important. And so it's really existential, I think, that we don't make we try to make politics a better word than it is. But I think, one thing to our advantage is not being the establishment candidate, because there's a real lack of trust in both parties. I feel that, I have felt that. And I think part of it is, trying to meet people where they are. I think we're trying to, we're trying to really just have as many conversations as we can. Like I'll talk to whomever. Like I really just want to know where people are, what they want to see. We're trying different platforms. Like, we have AMAs on Reddit. We're just like people that, and a big part of that is the younger vote, right? Like the younger people aren't voting because they feel really, really left behind and detached from, I think, the messages of both parties. So it's been interesting. Like before this, I was very active in our local Indivisible group here. And one of the things we did were community listening sessions. And I think part of it is like hearing what are people concerned about? What do people want to see? What do people want to see in a candidate and a party? So I think it's an opportunity to do a little bit of learning. And I've noticed from the Democratic Party, we were talking about what is it like to run as a Democrat. They still, it feels like they are sure they've got it figured out. And I think the truth is none of us have it figured out. And so we got to try different things. And yeah, I mean, it's frustrating though, because it is true when you get to Congress, like it is hard. It's kind of made so that progress is slow. I get, like that's kind of the two chambers and all the bureaucracy. And so like, it is hard from the outside to then be like, man, but nothing gets done there, because sure seems like nothing gets done. So I don't know. I think it's going to take time. But yeah, what would you like to see more from candidates and campaigns that would make you trust the process a little bit more?
A true map, and to say, okay, this happened and I completed this. I said this, I completed this. That would make me feel so much better. I don't see that. I don't like the politics. I don't like the, and I get it, especially as a candidate. I don't like the politicking of questions, answering questions. I don't like that at all. But again, that's probably why I'm not running, because I wouldn't be good at that.
Not yet.
I wouldn't be good at that. So I like to ask the questions, right? Which brings me to one of my last questions for you is, if and when you are elected, what would be the first kind of issues or policies that you would tackle?
Yeah, I think the sad reality is that whomever's elected to Congress this cycle is going to go in, and it's going to be a lot about damage control. I think that there's going to be little room for aspiration in the first year or so. If we also flip the Senate by some chance, I think a priority has got to be impeaching Trump and impeaching his cabinet members. I mean, I just don't see any other way to keep people safe. And so I think the oversight power of Congress needs to be used. I think we gotta, I'd love to do more and new programs, but I think first step is we have to make sure the programs we have are working. So appropriations is going to be important for key programs, especially programs that people rely on. SNAP, Medicaid, Medicare, we got to get those things up and running. Education. I have a lot of former colleagues who were fired from the federal workforce, and we depend on those people. They're the backbone of making these programs run. So it's going to be a lot. I can say that through appropriations, I could also bring back that little science office to help us regulate AI. So I would also sneak that one in if I can.
Oh, fantastic. Make sure you reach out to me, though, when you do that.
I'll tell you.
All right. So, look, it was an absolute pleasure to have you. One of the things is just to, come back to the question that you asked me. I really, I can't take this two-party stranglehold system. It's kind of like this idea of either or, right?
Yep.
And there's always shades of gray. So I always had an issue with, you either have to be Democrat or Republican. Nothing else matters, right? But we all know it's not always black or white, pun intended, right? And so, literally pun intended. So Yeah. So that said, for those who just joined in and watch, why don't you let everyone know again who you are, uh, what you're running for, your campaign, and how they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, thanks so much. And yeah, it's been an absolute joy to be on here. Thanks for talking with me. My name is Lucia Simonelli. I'm running for Congress in the 1st District of Pennsylvania. Our website is Lucia, Lucia, luciaforcongress.com. If you go there, you can sign up to volunteer, check out our socials. And yeah, we're running for good change. And I think we really need that right now. So yeah, thanks for letting me join the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. We really
Yes.
appreciate you. We want you to continue to fight the good fight. And if you ever feel like you need anything from We Talk Weekly, let us know. We really appreciate you coming on. Spark, you got any last words?
Thank you. Yeah, no, she hit on a lot of things, especially the last comment you made about Trump. And I believe that the hard truth is that the frailty in our country for the voters is because even on a local and state level, they're looking at it from even international and what's going on over in the Middle East and how our government is handling things. And I feel like people are just, they're disconnected and they feel like, like if this is happening on the bigger level, how is my vote going to count? So I
Mhm.
think you hit a lot of points on how everything is connected from the environment to our food to climate change, even to the sustainability with our clothing, our electric. Everything is connected. So thank you for being a guest today.
We can do this. We can make change together. So thanks for having me on, and thanks for doing all you do to raise all these important issues.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys, I don't want you to go anywhere. When we come back, we have another person. We're going to talk a little bit more about politics. We got Kadida, Slingshot the podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about Congress and our government. I'm sure we're going to talk about the president also. So I don't want you guys to go anywhere. We'll be right back after this, y'all. Hold tight. We'll be right back. And we're back. We Talk Weeklies after the talk of WPPMLP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We Talk Weeklies after the talk with your boy Charles Gregory and the beautiful.
Classy Lady Sparkle.
And the beautiful.
Tanisha Henry.
And we are here with another dynamic guest. But first, before we let our guests come in, what did you think about Lucia? That's how you say her name, Lucia.
Lucia. I thought T was going to say something.
I think she's fantastic. I wish I had more Lucias running around everywhere. She is fighting for the people, and I love that.
There you go. There you go. Fantastic. Well, we have another person that's coming on that's fighting for the people. And Spark, why don't you let us know who do we have today? Who do we have today?
We have family to the show. We have Kadida Kenner. She's the founding CEO of the New Pennsylvania Project and its education fund, where she drives voter engagement and advocates for social and economic justice across the state. A Temple University graduate, a former television producer. She has led major efforts to protect voting rights, raising the wages, and defend judicial independence. Y'all already know what to do. Let's give a warm We Talk Weekly welcome to Kadida Kenner.
Hey, how are you?
Hello. Good evening. Good evening.
Hello.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I'm not sure how much you heard as we had our last guest on the show. One before we start, I gotta ask you, how was your day? I feel like I'm losing my voice or something like that. But how was your day? How was your day?
Today was my first day off in a long time, so I did a lot of resting today. So it was good. Self-care is important in these times.
Yeah, fantastic. So, let's jump right into it because we had you on the show a few times already, and you're always on top of the issues. You unapologetically fight for the people, and I want to start there because the fight that you give, sometimes you get a lot of vitriol back, and I've told you before, you got to stop looking at those comments. But what is it that continues to give you that fight, even against the vitriol and the adversity?
Injustice. Injustice will keep me in this fight as long as injustice exists, particularly for my people. I'll continue to be in this fight no matter what happens.
Hmm. Hmm. Go ahead, Spark. I see you was on mute, man.
I was going to say, we have a lot of things that are going on internationally as well as local. We covered in good news, bad news about the tenant rights being now with the mayor has now signed a lease or a bill that was going to allow them to, have more rights. The question is, the city seems like there's a lot going on. We talked about minimum wage. What is it that we can do to help our city to try to make it where we're back on track as, brotherly love and sisterly affection for Philadelphia?
Yeah. I lead a voting rights organization. So the first and foremost thing I'm going to say is we have to vote. We know we have elections coming up. The primary election is when democracy happens. And good to see your previous guest in the fight there for Congressional District 1. And the vote is very important. This is how change happens in communities. It's historically how it has happened in our communities. And we need to make sure we come out. And as I'm talking to Philadelphia tonight, the primary election is essentially the general election, with Philadelphia being a very predominantly Democratic city. Typically, whoever wins the primary election wins the general in November. So people need to come out and vote this May 19th or before if they're voting by mail. That's how change happens. And then not only just the voting, because that's the easier thing to do. Although voting is quite difficult and barriers are being added daily. The really more important thing to do in this moment is hold elected officials accountable, particularly for the promises they make us when they're campaigning. And while they're in administration, while they're in office, is holding them accountable. And that's by either showing up to their offices, 3 people deep, groundswell public opinion, and voicing where it is you stand on an issue. Or it is writing to the office. It is going on social media and talking about what's going on in your local community and bringing more people in, organizing. So these are the things that we can do as the average day citizen, even resident. You don't even need to be a citizen to advocate for your rights and freedoms in this country.
Wow, you're absolutely right. I want to know about something I saw on the news not long ago. Now, a lot of public schools in Philly are closing, and we have found out, I think Cindy Bass, they had a skit or a bit on what SEPTA had bought and sold any of the schools for like $1. Is the voting a part of that where we can have it where our council people are saying, hey, this is not going to happen? And how did this happen?
Yeah. This is the opportunity. So, there's not elections going on for council members right now, not this year. So this is where that advocacy comes in. This is where you're reaching out to your council people. This is where you're reaching out to state representatives and state senators as well, who are on the ballot this year, because Pennsylvania, the way we fund public education is deplorable. We fund public education in Pennsylvania based upon property tax. So the happenstance of your birth might dictate what type of public education you're receiving. Not to say that there aren't success stories that come out of all different types of public schools here in Pennsylvania. And at the same time, we know that if you live on one side of City Avenue and you go to Overbrook, you're going to get one type of public education. And if you cross City Avenue and you head over to Lower Merion, you're going to get a very different type of public education on that side. And so the way that we fund public education is a mess. It's also been ruled unconstitutional by our Pennsylvania appellate courts, who said we must find a better way to fund public schools so that we don't have these issues in which we have schools getting ready to close down, alumni not having a place to go back for homecomings. This is an opportunity for us to protect schools in the Philadelphia area. And we do that, again, through advocacy. It is reaching out to your elected officials and telling them, this is what I want you to do. And if you do not do this, I will be sure to vote you out of office the next time that you are on the ballot, because their number one goal after being elected is to be reelected. So that's how we can bring about changes, to not allow for this to go unnoticed. We must talk about these issues in our communities, and we must talk about them frequently, and we must hold elected officials accountable.
Yeah. And I know Tanisha may have a question, but I just want to clarify that what Cindy Bass, what I saw is that she was actually standing up and, making it where, how did this come about? How did you all were able to take these deals and sell, and go and sell this for $1? So I want to say shout out to her, because we need more council people like that to speak up for the local people in the community. Go ahead, Tanisha.
I was reviewing the topic that we reviewed before. I was going to give an update today on the school vote with the school closures and the buildings that are being used for administration, or even given to the city or sold to the city for housing. When I did the research this week, it seems like this battle is even bigger than what it started out to be. It now includes, transportation. It now includes the city's budget for SEPTA. It now includes what the mayor is doing for budgeting, or what was not done in previous years when these issues were made public. It includes the students, the Teachers Federation. It includes the non-teaching staff. It includes the parents and city council fighting back. This plan has become an all-out brawl with so many departments in the city. And if I'm thinking, as one of the people who was putting this thing together, I probably wasn't thinking about SEPTA and transportation. I'm an educator. This is not my wheelhouse. I wasn't thinking about how the budget comes in part from city council. I wasn't thinking about how kids who are being merged into schools are now not going to have that transportation and the impact that it's going to have on the economy. So this thing is humongous now. They were scheduled to vote this Thursday. Thankful for the work from city council, they got the vote delayed, but the vote was only delayed by a week. What are we in all of these intersecting roles supposed to do when it comes to this massive thing, this education, but now it's playing in different parts? Now including the mayor with the rideshare tax for Uber and for Lyft and for DoorDash, and how that's impacting ridership. Their studies show that the most rides that come out of Philly are in impoverished neighborhoods. And so this tax is affecting usually minorities, low income housing. And was the tax all the way through when it's not affecting people on the main line? Like you said, you cross the street, you're in a whole nother county and a whole nother tax bracket. I know you don't have the answer to this, but where do we start? Because starting with the plan was not enough. How do we address all of these issues at one time and in such a short time?
Yeah, a budget is a moral document. So what we spend our budget dollars on is what we say we value, or what we're putting out there to say that we value. And so if we value public education and a good education for Philadelphia students, then it's all about the budget. And, budget talks happen on a yearly basis, not only at the, at the city level, but also on the state level. I know that's happening right now in Harrisburg as well. And so, when you talk about various ways to raise revenue in order to pay for our crumbling schools and to keep schools open, there are scenarios thrown out there, such as an extra dollar tax. And yes, it absolutely is going to impact those who can't afford it first and foremost. And that is going to be low income folks. That is going to be lots of folks of color that can't afford this tax. That's why things such as sales tax is unfair for folks, right? In a way in which, 6% or 7% tax, or city taxes, that hits everybody equally, but not everybody has the same amount of money. And that's why there's, all this talk of graduated taxes, and to ensure that, we're not putting a dollar tax out there that may not seem like something for somebody, but that is something for somebody. And, it absolutely will impact communities. And we talk about the damage already being done. I mean, it's not, place, it's not law yet. It's not, to my understanding, it's not law yet, right? It's just talks and what's going to happen. I see lots of, on my Facebook timeline, I see Uber. with sponsored ads talking about how problematic this is going to be, because this is a corporation trying to protect its business and trying to protect its bottom line. Does Uber really care about Philadelphia school kids? I don't think that dollar tax is any way going to hurt them. If anything, it's just going to help them make more money. So it's a lot of things to consider, and we have to be advocates for ourselves. And we have to make sure that we are reaching out to the elected officials that can actually do something. When you have a pothole outside of your house, you don't reach out to the president of the United States. He's not fixing a pothole, right? So who do you contact? Who is it that we need to reach out to ensure that voices are being heard? Is this city council? Is this state level? Is this your state representative that should get involved in this fight as well? Because there is some synergy there too. So, it's just about reaching out to those that can be most impactful and not stopping. We're coming up on May 1st, May Day, National Strike Day. Lots of folks not going to be working on May 1st. Lots of folks not going to be shopping in any stores on May 1st or spending any money. We have to get back to the times in which we're willing to be uncomfortable, in which we're willing to sacrifice in order to have our needs met. I think about the Montgomery, Alabama bus boycotts, people taking ride shares of neighbors taking folks to work for more than 365 days. Would that happen today in the United States of America? Could you imagine our folks today walking to work, trying to get rides from their neighbors to get to work? We don't want to suffer. We don't want to be inconvenienced. And guess what? If we want to bring about change, and if we think that protecting public schools in Philadelphia is important, we need to be inconvenienced, and we need to make sure that we're fighting for our rights and for the rights of these kids.
Okay. Agreed. I did a segment on how crime has gone down in the first time in almost 60 years in Philadelphia, which is a great thing. But it's still, I don't think that the residents still feel safe. What's your thoughts on that? Why aren't they still feeling safe even though crime has gone down?
You can make statistics say what you want them to say. You can read a statistic and make it go any way that you like it to go. And yeah, levels have gone down in Philadelphia. Absolutely. A lot of Black mayors. Shout out to the Black mayors across the country who seem to have crime rates going down in their cities. And I'll say that if you were that individual where you have been impacted by a crime, you don't care that the rate has gone down. That has happened to you and to your family. And so it's really important to note that there are some folks who, they may not be experiencing the carjacking as much or other things, but there's types of crimes that are really impacting families out here. And just because we're looking at statistics saying crime is down doesn't mean that's not impacting somebody. Between affordability, being able to afford rent and food, and electricity and gas, the next issues, particularly in Philadelphia and those voters in Philadelphia, is I want to feel safe. Security is one of the top, 3 issues when it comes to what people are caring about, particularly in large cities.
Mm-hmm. And raising the minimum wage.
It's deplorable. That we're still at $7.25 as the federal minimum wage, and then also what it is in the state. And we know that the state house, led by Speaker Joanna McClinton, have passed with a slim majority an increase to minimum wage across Pennsylvania. It is stuck in the Senate, and until the Senate and then Harrisburg changes, we will be stuck at $7.25 an hour because they have no interest in increasing it. Even places like West Virginia have a higher minimum wage than Pennsylvania does.
Yeah, that's
Can't hear you, Steve.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with I'm coughing and everything, but I just say this. It's just unfortunate to see the lack of empathy to the people who are struggling right now, whether it's housing, whether it's food, whether it's healthcare, to continuously argue that why are you taxing the rich so much, or the rich shouldn't get taxed, or these major corporations shouldn't get taxed. Just pass it down, because you mentioned the ride share thing. Just pass it down to the people, right? Because of course that's what Uber would do if this thing get taxed, if this thing get passed. But I always talk about I try to follow the money, right? I try to see where are the issues that we have right now and all of the other taxes that we apparently put out there or on people already or corporations on businesses already. Where are they? And it's a lot of so-called taxes that has been placed on different entities, which it appears they're not paying those taxes, but it's easy to put other people in the forefront. But I just want to read this comment because Monica
Yeah.
always to me hit the nail on the head. She said funding for our schools should be paramount, but it's always an afterthought. And now we are supposed to pay school tax and ride share, but PPA and other entities don't pay their fair share. Pay your fair
Yeah.
is what she's saying. Pay your fair. And that's one of the entities where it appears that people are either scared or quiet on PPA. And
Yeah.
I just don't get it, and I just don't understand it.
And I want to
So
add into that
go
for the
ahead.
PPA.
Mhm.
They just opened at the Filbert station, the old Filbert Greyhound, and they also said it's $100,000 a month for their rent to operate out of there. So imagine what state taxes or city taxes are going to go to from the residents to pay for that overhead.
Yeah. And so the question that I have for you, Kadida, in a minute after I continue giving the context, is PPA every 15 minutes, right? Is opening another meter or putting up another meter on little blocks now. Like the citizens, you could go on a back block now and you'll see a meter. They're towing cars, make you pay for them. They're booting cars. All of those have tickets. They just put a new robotic camera on some of this, or they're about to put new robotic camera in some of these school zones, which I believe they should, right? If you're speeding through these school zones. But where is that money going, right? And so Broad Street just implemented like more cameras on South Broad and of course upward to North Broad. And I asked, where's the money going, right? And so the question I have for you is when we talk about accountability, right, and taxing, who do we hold accountable for those particular businesses, big businesses that claims to not be? Because this is the pushback that I got from, me kind of mentioning PPA is, well, they're not city, they're not part of Philly. Well, they operate in Philadelphia, right? But who do we hold accountable to make sure people pay their fair share in legislation, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, that's all part of budget negotiations. I just want to step back for 1 second and say, when there are meters going up in neighborhoods and people are getting booted and having to pay tremendous fines. Again, this is always going to impact working folks first and foremost. They're the ones that have to drive to work. They're not being driven, right? These are the folks that are going to be getting these tickets. And so we're trying to raise money to support programs that we need by putting it on the backs of poor folks. And, we have an issue, and it starts here in Harrisburg. It trickles down into Philadelphia because Philadelphia gets budget, it gets, funding from the state budget. So it starts in Harrisburg. And when we don't allocate the appropriate amount of funds for our schools at that level, then we're going to have issues in cities like Philadelphia or even Pittsburgh or Harrisburg or any places, larger cities that really depend on funding. And so when we say we're not taxing some folks their fair share, I mean, the system is set up to succeed for corporations and businesses, right? Because they have the money to lobby elected officials and say, please don't tax me anymore. So this is part of the issue that we have in this moment, is that we are taxing nickel and diming working people to pay for all of these programs and needs, right? So that's the whole point of government, is to assist us in our needs and making things affordable for us to be able to survive out here. And when we're not taxing corporations in the way that we need to in order for them to pay their fair share, we'll continue to have this. This is why we can't have nice things, because we don't tax the rich and we don't tax corporations their appropriate share. And as long as you can be out here and, we're going to tax you on soda, but if you are a billionaire and you want to buy a helicopter, we're not going to tax you sales tax on a helicopter. And that's how the system is set up, so that those who have this money and can afford the lobbyists to advocate for them will continue to be in this situation. So this is where we must, as a people, come together and fight back. And days like May Day, May 1st, a general strike. This year, I had a hard time sending in my taxes on 4/15. I'm like, I'm sending my money to who? To do what? And I think a lot of people feel that way in this moment, that we are not getting the resources that we should based upon the taxes that we pay. I do these presentations and talking about how government works in high schools, and high school students understand this. I ask the rooms every time. I say, how many of you are working? How many of you have a job? You're working at Burger King. You're working in the mall. Where are you all working? Well, guess what? You are paying taxes as well. And so you all should be having your needs met as well with these tax dollars. It's just that we have an unfair tax system. We have an upside down tax system in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And until that changes, we'll continue to have these issues.
There you go. I mean, it is what it is. That said, there's really nothing else left to be said. And I think that's why I like to have Kadida on, because she's very informed when it comes to the topics and issues, which is something I want to jump in real quick before we let you go, Kadida, is what do you believe are the main focuses the people need to be worried about going into this election?
Number one, from talking to a Philadelphia audience and the surrounding areas, people are feeling unsafe, feeling like they might have some issues casting a ballot this year. So number one, we want to make sure people understand that if you are not feeling safe and secure going to the ballot box on election day this year, request a vote by mail ballot so that you don't have to go through any of that mess. And you can vote from the comfort of your home, mail that thing on time, or drop it off at a drop box if you feel safe and secure about doing that. I think that's important at this time. I think in this moment, we just need to fight for our rights. And we do that at the ballot box. That is historically how change comes about. And we must have some historic turnout in this primary election, this May 19th or before, if voting by mail, to bring about that change. And, I think that we also can't pit ourselves against each other. We need to make sure we're taking this fight to where it belongs, and that is to the wealthy and these corporations who get more welfare than any welfare queen they could ever dream up. And so it's really important for us to take this fight to where it belongs. And it's not within our own communities. It is those who have this power, but the power of the people is still much greater than the people in power. And so if we don't show up and vote and make our voices heard, then nothing changes.
Fantastic. Why don't you let everyone know about Slingshot the podcast? Because I will be remiss if I didn't bring that up on the show today, so we can kind of amplify a lot of the work that you're doing based around your podcast. So let's talk a little bit about that real quick.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. And happy to have you as my co-host with the most and producing the coordinating, producing the episodes and such. So thank you so much for the work that you do on Slingshot the podcast. It is truly a passion project to be able to have a Trojan horse, I call it, in which we are talking about sports and culture and music and entertainment. And the episodes are all titled after, 90s R&B songs or 90 hip hop songs. And then, we talk about all those things that people usually want to talk about, who may say these things are not political things. And we turn whatever that topic is to how it is political, because our lives are political. And if you say that you're someone who's just not into politics, guess what? Politics are into you. And everything that you care about and what you like to watch on TV, what you like to eat, it's all political. So Slingshot the podcast is that Trojan horse. And it's named in homage of David taking down Goliath with a single slingshot, because the power is within the little people. We can do great things. We can do big things if we come together to fight back against the powers that be. And so Slingshot the podcast is definitely a passion project where we bring on folks who are, we've had some former NFLers, we've had executives of other organizations, we've had incarcerated folks who are now executive directors of organizations coming on and telling their story, people who are doing work with young people and others. And so the podcast, Slingshot the podcast, you need all three words, is just a passion project that I hope is a way to push back against all the misinformation and disinformation that exists. And it's targeted or centered for Black communities to be watching, because we're talking about Black issues, things that impact Black communities. And we know that when the country is catching a cold, Black America, we're catching pneumonia. So we've got to be able to overcome the misinformation and disinformation that is out there and do it in a way in which people might actually want to take 35 minutes of their time and watch an episode.
Fantastic. It's an excellent podcast. Make sure y'all watch that. For those would like to get in contact with you and all that, so how can they find you and all that good old stuff?
Yeah, and we're hiring too. New Pennsylvania Project. We're a voting rights organization. We do lots of voter registration.
Look at Spark. She's like, oh, really? No.
Yes, we do lots of voter registration. We do lots of civic education and engagement. We put on town halls, candidate forums. We do all those things. And for canvassers who just want to hang outside, college campuses or outside that corner store, the bodega, and they want to register folks to vote, we start at $20 an hour. It's a great entryway into social society organizations. If you want to canvass and start to talk to people and knock on some doors and turn out votes, that's a great thing to do. So New Pennsylvania Project, you can find us at newpaproject.org. If you are not registered to vote, I encourage you to make sure you do that before May 4th. That is the deadline. And I will say this last thing, Philadelphia, the primary election is typically your general election. Who wins the primary in Philadelphia likely wins the general election. So who you want to win in November is who you must go out and vote for this May. But you cannot do that if you are not registered either Republican or Democrat, one of the two major political parties, because we have closed primary state here in Pennsylvania, meaning you cannot vote for candidates in a primary election if you are not a registered Democrat or Republican. So if you want to have your voice heard, you need to make sure that you check your voter registration status. You can make a change to your registration if you want to change parties. You can always change back after the election if you'd like. But if you want to vote in that May 19th election, you must be registered with one of the two major political parties if you want to vote for candidates. So vote.pa is where they will go. So if you want to check your voter registration status, you want to go get registered to vote and do it online, it takes you 2 minutes. Go ahead and get registered to vote, vote.pa.
Talk to our returning citizens real quick. Yes. One more again.
And we had to do this, right, Charles? Because I know that were talked to on the streets, after a previous episode from someone who was formerly incarcerated. And I do this especially when I'm in high schools. Just at Bartram, I was at Overbrook not too long ago, George Washington High School not too long ago, doing these conversations with students, because everyone, damn near everyone, has someone who's impacted by the justice system and has someone who is incarcerated for some point in time. As Pennsylvania is one of the top 5 most incarcerated places on the planet Earth. I didn't say the country. I said Pennsylvania is one of the top 5 most incarcerated places on the planet Earth, which means we're locking up a lot of people, a lot of drug charges coming right out of 420. We should be legalizing, if not, especially decriminalizing marijuana charges, what has people locked up. But if you are someone who is currently incarcerated right now, if you're able to listen into this, or if you're a loved one who has someone currently incarcerated, if you are currently incarcerated on a misdemeanor and you have been convicted or you're still just awaiting conviction or outcome, you still have freedom to vote. If you are currently incarcerated for a felony but have not been convicted yet, or maybe you won't ever be, you also have the freedom to vote. The only folks that do not have the freedom to vote in this very moment is someone who is currently incarcerated on a felony conviction. You've been convicted. You are behind bars serving a conviction for a felony. You're the only ones who cannot vote. Now, once freedom comes and you are no longer incarcerated and you're re-entering into society, you have the freedom to vote immediately in Pennsylvania, unless your crime, your felony, had something to do with voter fraud, or the judge has sentenced you to live in a halfway house, and therefore you're not truly free yet, and you are also not eligible to vote. There's a waiting period for those folks. So if you are someone who is currently on the street, your feet are on the street, Let's get you registered to vote. Let's get you voting because you have the freedom to do so. That's anyone with a misdemeanor, anyone who's had a misdemeanor, anyone who's had a past felony. As long as your feet are on the street and your crime had nothing to do with voter fraud, you are eligible to vote right now in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
So even if they are on probation or parole, they can
No
still
matter
vote.
if they're on probation,
Wow.
parole, or fines and fees, as long as your feet are on the street in Pennsylvania, you are eligible to be registered to vote and eligible to cast a ballot.
Okay.
There you go. I will continue to blast that message every day. Every day, every day. So kudos to the work that you're doing, Kadida. I'm always here to support. Continue spreading the message, continue amplifying the words, continue fighting for the people because we appreciate you and we'll always protect you for doing so. One more time, how can I get in contact with you and all that good old stuff?
Yeah, we're all over social media too. You can find us. We are really active on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, New Pennsylvania. You can also, again, go to our website, newpaproject.org. You can go and get registered to vote, update your status, change your name, change your address, change your political party, vote.pa.
It's that simple. That simple. Mic drop. All right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show. All right, y'all. I don't want y'all to go anywhere. When we come back, we got some tea for y'all. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. Thanks, Kadida. We out here like last year.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Stay safe
Hey,
out
this
there.
is Roxanne Shante, and your week cannot be complete unless you listen to or watch We Talk Weekly. Please believe me, baby.
We Talk Weeklies after the talk of WPPMLP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We Talk Weeklies after the talk with your boy Charles Gregory and the beautiful.
Classy Lady Sparkle.
And the beautiful.
Tanisha Him.
I don't know what's going on with my voice right now. I'm just losing it. I wasn't even
That
talking
just
a lot today.
happened.
Yeah, I wasn't even talking a lot today. I don't know where that's coming from, but we got a show to do. So T, you ready for me?
Yes, I am.
All right, no doubt. Give it to me early, man.
All right, I'm gonna come back with some updates. The first one, we talked about this a few weeks ago, was the Philadelphia Major Police Crimes Unit was investigating thousands of cars being stolen in Philly, mostly Hondas, and it's because of their universal parts. So there's been a development in the investigation, now turned into a full criminal case. 2 cases actually, with 14 arrests made and some more pending. What was thought to be just one car theft ring has developed into 2 separate rings. So here's for the first one. The first one has been determined to be, and I thought this was funny, but there's nothing funny about crime, a family operated business, okay, of 10 people, mom, dad, son, daughter, etc. Philly police started investigating them in August of 2025, and now 8 of those family members have been arrested. The family operated their business out of Northwest Philly, and they will be charged with stealing at least 50 cars, while police investigate another 150 cars that they believe are associated with this family.
Hey, T, one second. Can I stop that story? Hold your spot. Looks like Kadida here. I just seen this because this is kind of like breaking news. Kadida, you mentioned it was an active shooter. What? Kadida, can you hear us? Kadida, can you hear us? I guess she can't hear us. So she just wrote in the comments that there was an active shooter at the White House at the correspondence dinner. I'm wondering, so that just happened, and I guess she can't hear. She's not paying attention. But I just wanted to make mention of that. I guess we do some research real quick, and just bring that up, but we'll talk about that later. But I think that's something that we need to talk about a little bit.
So let me tell you what the SAVE Act is all about. For sure. All right. The SAVE Act is not a voter ID bill. The SAVE Act is a tactic to
Oh, that's Kadida.
Yeah, I think you need to take her off, but she doesn't know she's on.
She don't know she's on. All right, so cool. So what we'll do is we'll circle back around T when it comes to this particular breaking news, because I want to make sure that we address that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's breaking news. Holla at me, T. Come on, holla at me.
Y'all go ahead and catch that research and let me know when y'all ready. The police estimate that approximately 1.6 million in stolen cars and fraud have been discovered by the family-operated car ring. So let me tell y'all how they got caught. So Philly police were executing a car stop in Northeast Philly, and they found 3 car titles from South Carolina, which raised their suspicions. The police found out that the car titles were fakes, and so then they collaborated with the state police and the Attorney General's office for a more thorough investigation, because now we cross the state lines, okay? So this investigation revealed the inner workings of the car theft ring, and so here's how it went down. The family would steal the Hondas, usually a Honda CRV, then go on the internet, find a VIN number from a different Honda CRV that's located in another state, and then they swap the VIN numbers out. Then the cars were sold on Facebook Market or some other social media outlet. Recently, they sold a 2026 Honda CRV for only $19,000, which is crazy because some 2026 Honda CRVs start at $30,000. There's a link right now, Charles, on Facebook Marketplace right here in Philadelphia. If Charles can pull that up, so I can see so y'all can see what's going on now. So I went to Facebook Marketplace to see if there's something on there, and there was. That's the Honda's CRV. This one is like a 2019 one. This one is listed for sale for what, $4,000? And in their used condition, the price for this particular model and year starts at $14,000. So that's just a little example of what's going on. I'm surprised with the car theft ring still up that you'll see posts like this. But let me tell you, y'all know I usually got a quick story about how these things be relevant to my life. So during COVID, my car died right outside my house. It was parked there. It died there. I was grateful that it died there, but I needed to replace the car. I didn't have a means to replace my Infiniti at the time because I was just recovering from a divorce. And I needed a bigger car because I was traveling like with a pop-up market, like all over the place, even as far down to Atlanta. So I was looking for something cheap but reliable because I was on the road a lot. I didn't want another car note, couldn't afford one. And while your girl loves herself a luxury car, I'm always going to love myself a good old Honda, okay? So guess what I started looking for? Honda CRVs. And guess where I was looking at?
Facebook Marketplace. You could have got yourself a $4,000. Yeah,
exactly, brand new. I was on a website shopping day and night. I was making outreach to people. I was making plans to show up to check out the car, bring a mechanic with me, make sure I wasn't getting got. But I never felt comfortable with the prices. They were prices that I could afford, which I loved, but something just wasn't adding up for me. So I never showed up to all the appointments I made. At this point, I'm so grateful for my intuition because who knows what I could have got myself into. And as you can see, they still up there for sale. So this is still going on. Right now, police
too good to be true, as it usually is. Yeah.
Exactly. So police are warning people who have recently purchased Hondas cheaply and or using social media that if they see a deal that seems too good to be true, it probably is. That's what the police are saying. They're also urging people to go to their local police station to get the cars checked out. Now, on to the second car theft ring. This one is what the police are calling a Dominican-operated business who focused on stealing Honda parts. So not the whole car, just the parts. This investigation began in May of 2024, and it is a multi-state investigation, but it gets even bigger than that. Just last week, police executed search warrants at 6 locations. They found dashboards, airbags, engines, all kinds of car parts. So the way this one was operating is that this group had some folks going out to scout out Hondas to steal. Then they would transport them to certain locations or chop shops, garages, or warehouses. Once they got delivered, the next crew would disassemble the vehicles for the parts. They distributed them inside the United States, but they were also exporting them outside of the country. In total, this group is estimated to have stolen $4.6 million in car parts. So far, 6 of 11 members of this group have been arrested for over 100 cars. But this investigation is said to possibly discover thousands of cars involved in this. So again, if you have a Honda that's ranging from 2018 and 2026, which were the popular ranges for the thefts, please find ways to secure your vehicle and feel free to get your car checked by the police district. As they're doing these investigations and connecting the dots, they're going to figure out what was connected to what. And you don't want your car being taken.
But what happens? Like if
it
your
becomes
car
a
is
part of
one
the
of the
investigation.
say
So
it again.
the car is likely to become a part of the police investigation. Which
So
means
who want to take their car down there knowing it could be a part? I wouldn't want to take my car.
I wouldn't want to take mine either.
What?
So,
You
so I got a
listen.
question. So
Mhm.
look, so if you purchase a car, right, Facebook Marketplace, and it allows you to, because you have to go through the state.
Yeah,
So
but then
if you get a license, yeah, if you go through the whole process, you get a license plate and all of that, and the VIN and
Registered. Yeah.
then how that's not my fault at that point, right?
So that's what I would have done, because I don't do loopholes. But I know a lot of people in Philly who have successful businesses, fake car tags, fake VIN numbers, fake license plates, fake insurance. So if you're buying these things for $4,000 and you're smart enough to keep criminalizing the process, you're going to go through those avenues to get your stuff valid, or valid like, if you will.
Valid like.
Welcome to Philadelphia.
Oh man, that's crazy.
And as you can see on Facebook Market, it's still going down. Like people are not afraid.
Wow. That's crazy, because the situation I'm in right now, I'm probably need to stay off of Facebook Marketplace. Then I'm
gonna go right after this and see what I can find. What are you talking about?
Yo,
I love Facebook.
On Facebook Marketplace.
I love Facebook Market. Offer up. I love them.
Yep.
Just for vehicles too. What?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that information. Because once I get my stuff registered,
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Once you registered, that ain't my fault after that. Y'all
that's
didn't do
right.
nothing
Like
to me.
what? Y'all not going to
criminalized or anything like that. This isn't on them. But I believe that they'll do the assessments, probably take them to the police impound lot, do the investigations, and that's that.
Unless they going to say, where did you meet this person? Do you have a telephone number? That's probably all they can try to get. But you gonna give me back my $4,000 or $5,000 or excuse me, however much I paid? No.
Exactly.
No.
I'm on Facebook Marketplace right now.
Let me know how you make out.
No.
I had another update for you all, but we kind of discussed that with our last guest with the school district vote. And since that vote has been delayed for a week, I'm going to just wait until there's been some more traction or movement, and we'll come back to finish off that story. This next one is about technology in schools. And for the most part, I'm just going to have Charles play these links in the order that they appear. The first link is about technology negatively impacting cognitive development. Go ahead and roll the first one.
Protect this man at all costs.
My name is Dr. Jared Cooney Horvath. I'm a former teacher turned cognitive neuroscientist who focuses on human learning. And I do not receive funding, nor have I ever, from big tech. So a sad fact our generation has to face is this. Our kids are less cognitively capable than we were at their age. Every generation has outperformed their parents, and that's exactly what we want. We want sharper kids. And the reason for this largely has been school. Each generation spends more time in school. We use school to develop our cognition until Gen Z. Gen Z is the first generation in modern history to underperform us on basically every cognitive measure we have, from basic attention to memory to literacy to numeracy to executive functioning to even general IQ, even though they go to more school than we did. So why? What happened? What happened around 2010 that decoupled schooling from cognitive development? It can't be school. Schools basically look the same. It can't be biology. This hasn't had enough time to change. The answer appears to be the tools we are using within schools to drive that learning. Across 80 countries, as Jean was just saying, if you look at the data, once countries adopt digital technology widely in schools, performance goes down significantly, to the point where kids who use computers about 5 hours per day in school for learning purposes will score over 2/3 of a standard deviation less than kids who rarely or never touch tech at school. And that's across 80 countries. Bring it home to the US. Let's go to the US. We have our NAEP. That's our big data. Take any state, and here's a fun experiment you can try. Take any state NAEP data, compare that to when that state adopted one-to-one technology widely, and watch what happens. The NAEP data will plateau and then start to drop. Of course, this is all correlative. What we really want is causative. To get causation, what you need is academic research, and you need mechanisms, explanations for why we're seeing what we're seeing. Luckily, we have academic research stretching back to 1962 that shows the exact same story for 60 years. When tech enters education, learning goes down. In fact, because what do kids do on computers? They skim. So rather than determining what do we want our children to do and gearing education towards that, we are redefining education to better suit the tool. That's not progress, that is surrender. So as we go through our discussion today, there's going to be a lot of talk about smartphones and social media, rightly so. But I'm the voice here to remind you that even in schools, it doesn't matter what the size of the screen is, if it's a phone, if it's a laptop, if it's a desktop, and it doesn't matter who bought it. Is it school sanctioned? Does it have the word education stamped on it? It doesn't matter. All of these things are also going to hurt learning, which in turn are going to hurt our kids' cognitive development, right at the time when we need our kids to be sharper than we are.
This has to stop. Like this post, follow No Dice, and join me for No Dice 45.
What y'all think about that before we go into the next one?
Yeah, I think there's an argument both ways. I agree with some that when we talk cognitively, some of our kids are falling behind, but there's other studies where literally they're saying this generation is smarter than us, and a lot of that is because of technology, right? So I think two things can be true, and I think that it depends on how you learn. Some people, we already have a huge understanding that children who look like us is factually has the ability to learn differently, right? But if you're neurodivergent, you're learning differently. If you're creative, you think different than someone who thinks linear, right? And so I think there needs to be contexts, fair context when you're being a academic, as this gentleman was, who spoke so eloquently about the cognitive dissonance, so to speak. So yeah.
All right, Spark, you got anything?
I kind of agree with what Charles said. I mean, when I'm the generation where computers were introduced and you had one at the back of the classroom and it took almost 3 months for every child to visit it. So I think that it can be good, but I think that when anything is out of balance, that it can be a detriment. And I think that's what we're dealing with this generation, is that the screen time is crazy. I got my 2-year-old grandchild knows how to work a phone better than the grandfather. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, let me show you, grandpop. So I think that they are definitely, what Charles said, in some aspects smarter, but then there are some aspects where, do they know critical thinking? Can they think outside of the box? When something happened, do you have the survival skills, or do you always have to run to the computer to try to get the answer? So again, I think that there's, as he said earlier, six eggs in one hand, a half a dozen in the other.
Absolutely. I grew up around the same time as you. I remember when people started getting computers. I remember when we got cell phones. I remember when we started going online on AOL. And I remember schools getting those little computers that we all had to circulate and take turns on. But what I also remember is that I didn't have a computer at home. When everybody else was getting computers, I was still using encyclopedias. I was still writing. I wasn't typing. I learned to type very late in life. Even as I matriculated through school and technology was the bar, I was still handwriting. I couldn't connect with the technology. Even though we had classes on how to use it, I didn't feel connected. Like, for me, I got to totally dive into what I'm doing and kind of become one, almost intimate with whatever I'm learning. And I couldn't do that with a screen. I went through college writing. I would have to pay people to type my papers because I just couldn't do it. And then it takes too much time to draft it. And then here's my complete thing, but the teacher wants it in this style. So I had to pay people for that. I was still using a typewriter in college. Even as I went to law school, I just couldn't connect. I couldn't learn that way. It wasn't subtle. So I don't know, call me old school. My grandparents did raise me. They still had this set of encyclopedias when I was coming up, and that's my first love. That's my go-to. Yes, I know how to use technology now, but I know it's a lot of little kids that can teach me a lot of stuff. And I'm waiting to find one. So maybe Spark, I can, set up a meeting. I can use the help. All right, so here's another story that's related. This is about technology being removed from some students or some schools to increase learning. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, Shari, this is not a new issue here in the Lower Merion School District, and it's not an issue that is unique to Lower Merion. This is a conversation that's being had at school districts across the country. There was a conversation in late March between parents here in Lower Merion and school district officials about the issue. But as you mentioned, in recent weeks, parents have decided they want to opt out of this technology altogether. They say they understand there's a place for it, but they don't want it to control the classroom.
And there is no control.
It's a free-for-all environment. It's just gotten completely out of hand.
Books. The parents of elementary, middle, and high school students in Lower Merion are voicing their concerns. 430 have signed a petition asking to opt their children out of receiving school-issued Chromebooks or MacBooks. They call it pencils over pixels, worried about the impact the constant use of technology is having on their children.
There really aren't any filters. They can just access absolutely anything off the internet.
The vast majority of the kids will find a way to bypass all the protection and go to YouTube and watch the videos and play the computer games.
During a school board meeting tonight, several students spoke about the issue.
The iPad in my class is just games. I wonder sometimes, why do we use it every day?
My peers' ability to think is being replaced by AI. You have given us something comparable to an addictive drug and expect us not to use it.
A CDC study published last year stated teenagers with 4 or more hours of daily screen time were more likely to experience sleep issues, depression, and anxiety. Right now, parents in Lower Merion are waiting to hear from the district. When we asked school officials for comment, we were referred to remarks made by the superintendent at a policy meeting last Monday.
We're concerned about screen time, so we'll work with our teachers more and more to lessen that.
District policy currently states parents can opt their children out of receiving a district-issued device. However, last week, the superintendent said that is not possible.
Our curriculum is delivered the way it's delivered, and part of that curriculum is done with electronic devices. We can't have a room for 20, 30 kids that want to opt out, and the rest of the school is operating differently.
Last week, the superintendent also said that the district will work with parents to filter and restrict those devices when they are being used at home. But those parents tell me they are resolute. They want to opt out of this technology.
So the most important thing from this for me was what the student said, the teenager, about how you're giving us AI and it's, likened to an addiction almost. And you expect us to be able to matriculate and be normal people. I did find a lot of videos and a lot of studies correlating to screen time, AI, and its addictive capabilities and how it leads to depression. They say we're raising a generation of kids who are dependent, even with video gaming, on fast results, something being completed, and it increases their dopamine. And so that kind of dopamine, when you contrast that with regular school learning without the digital stuff, that's a slow dopamine. And so you hear a lot of kids saying now that they're bored. And although I love education, obviously I'm an attorney, I hated school too. School was boring for me too, but this is a different kind of boredom, and it's causing like depression and anxiety because of that dopamine shit. So a lot of these stories are correlated to the gaming. They're correlated to boys because boys typically are gaming at younger ages than girls are, or at higher rates. But to hear the kids speaking out that this is detrimental, I hope that people start listening. As Charles said, people learn differently. And I get that curriculum is supposed to be like unison in a way, but we already know that there's no one way to learn, and there's also no one way to teach. But this next story is about what's happening right here locally. You can go ahead and play that one.
The class divide of the future is going to be who can read and critically think and who cannot. Let me explain. What every educator on this app is talking about, and what every educator in the field is noticing, is a dramatic decline in basic critical reasoning skills and basic literacy skills among students. This is particularly pronounced among high school age students, where they're engaging with more complex material and can't grasp basic concepts or manage basic memory about those concepts. And what this is creating is a generation entering the workforce without basic comprehension skills that is going to make it very hard for them to keep and maintain any form of employment. On the inverse of this, we're seeing kids in more affluent families being not only pulled out of the public school system and sent to things like Montessori schools, but being pulled away from technology, not given access to anything more than, say, a TV or a video game station until they're a teenager. No tablets, no phones, things like that. And what they're doing to fill their time instead is the normal childhood stuff of playing outside, reading a book, coloring sheets, all of these things that seem like play but are actually building soft skills that make someone much better able to navigate the world around them as they get older. The gap is not going to be who can use AI and who cannot. The gap is not going to be who is an all-star on the ACT with a full ride and who is not. The gap is going to be who can reason in a basic way and who cannot. And those that cannot will probably be left behind.
Those projections are sad. I know, Charles, with the AI stuff, we discussed, is benefits all over the place, jobs being created, companies being run completely with AI, and we see the benefit, we see the good, we see the infrastructure changing to accommodate these brains that were trained with technology. This world will be their world very soon. And so we are handing over them something that they can work with, and it essentially phases older generations out when it comes to who's going to replace who at the workforce. But the other point that he made was again, back to cognitive functioning and thinking, and can you reason and can you logic? I remember telling you all before that I see this every day in court, that people have low comprehension skills, can't figure out how to complete documents, don't know how to sign their name on signature lines, can't understand basic sentence structure and formulation. And when I'm telling people, please take a seat at the first table straight ahead, there are so many people a day who cannot comprehend what I'm saying. And all I'm saying is, please take a seat at the first table straight ahead. I'm literally telling you just to walk straight. I'm literally telling you that it's ahead of you. But everybody freezes and they don't understand. And it's so basic. So then I have to be concerned about, this is a legal hearing, a legal matter. You have to have more cognitive function than not being able to understand, sit here. And so I'm seeing that in people my age, people younger than me, and unfortunately in people older than me. The cognitive function and ability for information recall, retention, all of that is destroyed right before my eyes. Charles, what you want to say about the AI? I know.
No, I'm just listening to what you're saying, and I would just push back and say, so what do you attribute that to? Right. So are you saying that, not you per se, but is the argument that the cognitive functioning of people who can't walk down the hall and sit down, are you attributing that to AI? Are you attributing that to technology? What are you attributing that to? And I think that's where it gets a little dicey, right? Because even there needs to be either case studies. You need something that creates the formula, right? So that you can dissect what the issue is, right? And so it becomes, to a degree, a lazy science for someone to just easily point the finger at AI, or easily point the finger, because before this AI conversation, it was social media. And none of that discussion did I hear social media. We talk about AI in cognitive function, but in order to get necessary output, you need cognitive engineering to engineer the prompt to get exactly what you need, right? And so it's kind of like, I mean, what are we doing here? Like, what is the actual argument, and what are we saying the cause of the issue is? And that's where I stay. So when we talk about research, in order to form what the the dissertation, we create the dissertation, we need the argument, right? And we need the retort in the thesis. We start with the thesis. So what is the actual thesis? Are we targeting AI with cognitive learning, cognitive dissonance? What are we doing? And that's where I start with, like, what is the actual thesis, so we can truly have a articulate conversation or break down this theory, so to speak, so we can get to the bottom of it. And so that's where I start, because like I said, two things can be true. I'm not, I am definitely for AI or the function of AI, but I am cognizant that we need some guardrails on this, because it can be predatory, right? Or it can do certain things that I don't think the average person needs to be able to do, right? That said, we've been arguing about gun laws, right? Is it okay for the average person to hold a gun when they can't even take direction to walk and sit down? So can we bring other things within the argument? So are we talking about, is it AI or are we talking about, so that's where I say it gets a little dicey, and we need to have this true discourse on what the issues are, so we can start having these true conversations.
So this is bigger than AI. This
Yes.
is about gaming. It's about time on social media. It's about accessing things children probably shouldn't access. But they've also broken these studies down. These studies have been going on for years, to how this also stems from us taking cursive writing out of the schools. So not just textbooks, not just pens and paper, but cursive writing, because there are skills attributed to the brain's development, something about the frontal cortex. And of course, I couldn't go through all that scientific stuff, but as that relates to writing, and each stroke and the words being put together helps memory recall, it helps retention. Kind of like what I was saying, becoming intimate with the work. There were so many things listed that skills that people need from their early development through their adulthood that are found in the ability or the craft of learning cursive. So with that, let me tell you what's going on with the cursive.
Totally agree. I agree with you.
Me too.
So there's something to be done right now all throughout the country to correct what they're calling the damage of technology. There's data that states that between the years of 2010 through 2020, 45 states removed cursive out of their curriculum. But with neuroscience doing their studies and investigations, we are now learning that decision has caused a loss of cognitive function, and now the nation is fighting to restore it. In Pennsylvania, a law has been introduced that reinstates returning cursive to schools. It's indicating that it is a skill proven to boost cognitive learning. And then a more recent study in 2023 shows that those who learn cursive outperform those who did not in areas like spelling retention, read speed, written composition, and strengthening memory. It did go into effect in April, so that was this month. There are other states who are following this reinstatement of cursive to schools. It is mandatory, and there are several who have already done so. So part of me is like with Charles, while they're attacking multiple things, it's not just one culprit. You always got to wonder, what's the motivation for this? Because we were doing this right a long time ago when we decided no pens to pixels. When we decided cursive wasn't needed, when we decided that the math that we learned was no longer essential. And so we're now seeing a few generations later, the detriment, the impact. It kind of reminds me of like the practice of medicine. It's literally a practice. They want to weed everything out. You don't know what's going to work. You don't know what's going to hit. And so you just throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. Then after they do all they weeding out, they're like, well, now you got to go see somebody who specializes in this so that they can do their complete work through. It's literally all a practice. Same thing with the practice of law. It's a practice. Let's try this theory. Let's see if this defense works with this particular fact pattern. And then the person who decides yay or nay, it depends on what they bring to the table and where they all think it's fit. That's what I think is going on now, is that it's just a practice of things. It's a weeding out. They said there's some of these studies are dating back to seeing correlations that or trends 60 years ago, because learning was slightly different then. We added some things, we took away some things, and they saw what happened to people over time. People got smarter, absolutely, but some core things were lost. And so they're saying we're repeating ourselves with this pattern of everything that we take away and everything that we're adding. There's a lot of these studies have correlations that ADHD, anxiety, and depression, also behavior issues in school. So this thing is kind of pretty big, but it involves so many things, mental health included, development and structure, behavioral patterns, what's going on at home. There's so much that goes into this.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Sport. Yeah.
I was just going to say that strong men raise weak kids. Like it's over time that you're going to lose something. If you think about, like you said, Charles, with the neurodivergent children, if you have kids with special needs, autism, tell me AI is not going to be helpful for them that are nonverbal, that can push the button and be able to talk to mom or dad or say what they want, or if someone's touching or doing something wrong. Like it's a communication that they didn't have, back years to come. So I think what happens worldwide is that just like the food pyramid, we have to have things in balance. You just like the food pyramid, you need your starches, you need your sweets, you need your meat. It's not like, oh, take everything out. And it's not like overload with one thing. I think social media has a good thing to it. I think AI does. But when we try to do too much with it, that's where the problem comes in. If you try to drink too much water outside of your body weight, guess what's going to happen? Your lungs are going to get with fluid, but water is 90% of your body. So why is it that we can't take it and be able to utilize it and use it where it's going to be a balance? That school bit that you showed, it's like, okay, why don't you just cut it in half? Why is it that you still utilize the technology, but then also have it where the kids are able to, use their critical thinking? Like I said, if you know health and anatomically how our bodies move, we know that the neurons in our bodies tell us what to do. Your spine is giving you a shock to say move your hand, blink your eyes. These are things that are happening that you don't even know that's happening. So when you mention about when you're doing in cursive writing, you're able to have those neurons tell other parts of your body what to do and able to do hand to mouth coordination, things that you can't get from a computer. But I think the computer is still highly helpful.
Yeah. No, 100. Everything that you said. I hate the people who think in absolutes, because that's a hard sell, right? Because I when we talk about writing in cursive, I always wonder, why did they take that? Like, people can't even see documents to sign their name on checks. Why would you take that? And I felt like when I first heard it, I felt like it took us back to the slavery days, where they is like, just put an X right here and that's how you sign your name, right? And actually still that still works. I believe that
it does. We see it every day.
And so, but that's creating, for kids, that's fine motor skills, that's visual cognition, a lot of that. When you talk about writing and cursive, they teach that in ECE, early childhood education, that it's important to write. But I believe that there's a certain level of fine motor and typing. Remember, they had typing in school before. They took that out. Why would they take that out of school? Learning how to type is the same thing with how many keystrokes can you do in a minute, that type of thing, right? And so I don't know, it's hard. Let me see if I think there's a question in here. Monica said it's not just cursive, it's even the little ones who have the problem with, like I said, fine motor skills, because of that part. And so when we talk about just utilize, I don't know, it's just interesting dynamic. I'm really cautious when it get to the absolutes, because I see what technology has done in just closing the digital divide gap from different demographics. And that's an AI digital divide thing that we were able to now be competitive with. When we talk about being competitive for people, if we think of, dare I use, DEI, but being a bit more equitable in learning and information, only technology was able to do that. So again, the reason why they're able to see, well, who was the first person on the planet? Literally, that was AI. That was, research and technology, being able to call someone on the phone. That was developments in technology. The reason why they're finding cancer and curing cancer, that's developments in AI. And so to me, it's like, if you're going to truly have this conversation, it has to be on this equal playing field to say, okay, what are the goods, the bads, the indifference of everything? Now let's truly have everything on the table. Hold on. She says scientists say that our thumbs will be our largest digits as time moves. Yeah. And that's true. I mean, because they said that about the primates, right? And you can look at primates and track that. So to that point, again, science said literally the first person on the planet name was Lucy. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, but that was science, right? Science. And so why do these big thinkers, these big thought-provoking thinkers said that one of the things that is necessary for youth to have and learn is STEM. Within STEM, there's a technology component. So these are all academic. So what academic? So it's like this. That's when it blows my mind, because it's like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to people who's uninformed and are forming ideas based on the idea of being scared, And so it's easy to sway people who are scared if you say it loud enough and convincing enough, right? But for those who are really pushing the limit and saying these are, developments that help, they're building windmills that's creating water and wells, and a lot of that is because of developments. It's a scientist, this guy literally as a chemist, developed the way to literally fuel his car by, I believe it's just like, I don't know, trash or something like this.
Back to the Future.
Literally. I mean,
that's what they did. Back
and
on the
so,
movie.
it's just, I think I think it needs to truly be, there needs to be a microscope on who is creating these ideas and these, these theses that's left unchecked. And as one of our guests said before, if you are big pharma, to tell big pharma, how can we fix free healthcare, something like this, kind of like, you can't.
It's an oxymoron.
It's oxymoronic, exactly. And so we have to have true conversation as it relates to certain things, and only people who have the knowledge space on it. You can't fix a community who suffers from being unhoused, right? And tell people who live in mansions to fix that. Or ask people in mansions, how does it feel? And say, oh, you can write a thesis on how they feel, and you never been unhoused before. That's why you have to have certain people at the table. Me as a man, I can't tell you or fight against you having control over your reproductive rights. As a man, tell you how you should feel about that. I can't do that. I need someone at the table who suffers from that or will be damaged from that, to be at the table to tell me how that feels, right? Or what will be the result, or what they would suffer from. The same thing. You can't tell me as a man what it feels like to have to walk and feel aggressive all the time when you see another man. You can't, like, it, all the time. The amount of anger, vitriol, tension, anxiety when seeing another man, and waiting to say, what do the fine line of saying what's up. Just that nuance. How is he saying what's up? Is it what's up like we about to fight? Or is he saying what's up just to speak? other people have privilege that they don't even have to worry about that, right? And so I say all that to say there's long answers that there needs to be some type of nuance and true discourse to create these ideas for these big thinkers, because it's easily slated as an echo chamber for someone who's on one side versus the other side. Let me pull this up real quick. I know that was a long answer. Ocean City, Maryland uses oil from restaurants for their bus. That's literally that's technology. Should we take that out and say no, don't use oil for your bus? I mean, it's rhetoric.
And I think it's I think it's the Miyagi effect.
Yeah.
The wax on, wax off. You don't realize what certain things are in place until after. Again, if you have stuff in balance, everything that we've used for good, and when we overuse it, that's when we see that it's a detriment to us.
Yeah. But I believe there needs to be, like, this is why you need to have this conversation though. Like, that's why I said two things could be true. That's why, as much as I'm for, say for example, AI, not necessarily for it, but I do believe people need to be informed of it. Me understanding it, there needs to be some barriers up, because I know what it's able to do. You know, we talked about fake news. We talked about, this, just the dark web and all of this stuff that can be created by way of AI. It can be very dangerous. So can a gun, right? So can chemicals, So yeah, you just have to be responsible. But shout out to Monica. Monica is always on top of it, because those who are affected aren't at the table. You increase the likelihood of unintentionally consequences. Yep. So yeah.
All right. And did y'all get the update on the White House?
Oh, I did read something. Yeah, I did. Let me pull this up. Let me see. I'm glad you brought that up, because we did mention that, and then we can end. So this is on CNN, whether you like CNN or not. Just being transparent where we at. It says Trump rushed off stage after shots fired at White House Correspondents' dinner, and this says updated 4 minutes ago. And it says agents draw their guns after loud bangs were heard during the White House Correspondents' Dinner at the Washington Hilton in Washington, D.C. on April 25th, which is the day 2026. President Trump is attending the annual gala of political press for the first time while in office. And that's what the photo, let me get it credit. Photo by Mandel Ingen, AFP via Getty Images. Mandel Ingen. All right. And so so apparently that's what happened. You can see this story where I'm reading it directly from CNN to give them their credit. We don't own this. We're just kind of reporting. Yep, cool. Interesting. Yeah, man. So no, but great stories, guys. Great. I like how we are able to kind of bring awareness to the people, talk a little bit. But yeah, I think this is, we need some type of, like I was telling the young lady who's running for Congress, there needs to be in a strategic initiative, some type of plan that's going to make sure that some barriers are up, some benchmarks. There's some benchmarks to utilize, some a guideline to follow when it comes to stuff, and there needs to be people who are respected to do that. You can't have, Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk create this. People who are already creating the tech lines and creating AI, you can't have them running it, because it will sway over to one side. They are already at the table, right? So you need a table of Mark Zuckerbergs, you need a table of people who hate tech, and you need a fine line, a group of people that's, carefully thought out to make conscious decisions and vote. I believe that.
For the people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Before I forget, Charles, I just attended a CLE, which is what lawyers got to take in order to keep their license active, and it was on AI and the law. And they were saying that Pennsylvania is, I don't want to say in a lead or ahead of states, but they're in a pretty good place where the mandates come for all in terms of regulating the areas of law and how to use it ethically. So they're saying that we're doing a good job in comparison to some other states where we are, but they also noted that AI is vastly changes. And so people have to work double time just to keep up with the changes to make more regulations and things for it. So it'll always be an uphill battle.
Is that, like I said, AI is innovating so fast. When you came up with some type of policy on, I don't know, deep fake, now is something that's different that you can't even create a policy because we're not even doing that anymore. And so, yeah, but that's a good point. I need to find out. I need to follow this pretty closely because I think it's truly important, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of information based around that. And so, yeah, y'all keep me, in the loop if y'all hear anything based off that, a regulation thing. Yeah, for sure. Because I know some, literally, I know some attorneys that's utilizing AI. To help them. I mean, they don't need, the amount of help. I mean, if you have tons of caseloads, if I know for a fact, especially as somebody that may, be a public defender, and I have a crazy caseload, but I know my study, I know my background, I know whatever. Again, I'm not sure of the policy based on the uses of AI for public defender or what that is. But what I would say is, knowing what I know about AI, there's a framework that I know that I could potentially create with my knowledge base to be able to maintain certain things, because I already know what the quote unquote issue is, and I can address the issue based off of the information to help me support my client more. Because if everyone knows, like I know, that a lot of public defenders are overworked and underpaid, right? And so they're not able to support their clients the way that they should. Now, as you got AI, there's some things that put in place that maybe you can do a little better for the client. So would you potentially argue against that if they can work harder and do better for a potential client to keep them out of jail when they didn't do anything?
So they're saying that because lawyer ethics are already in place, that we have to use the AI consistent with what's already our ethical guidelines and boundaries. They also warned that they recognize that a lot of us are still uncomfortable with it because there have been some legal matters with false AI information and things like that. But they say, when you start out using it, they get your cases together, what you know about your cases to be true. And then they teach us how to put the prompts in to generate information that we can already verify. And then they tell us to take a step back and still verify the information that we're getting, because back to the prompts, AI is only as good as what you put into it. And what really needs to be taught is how you're phrasing the questions or the parameters of the prompts that go into it. And so that's where some focus needs to go in terms of teaching people how to use it.
That part. And that's the part that we've been saying. Remember, it's garbage in, garbage out. That's with everything, right? And so there needs to be more time in, people training when it comes to like engineering or creating the best prompts for a response to the language model to truly understand. Because one thing we always say, if you don't write a prompt correctly and it's missing some things, AI is going to fill in those blanks.
All right.
You want it not to go ahead.
Just to add to that, the 3 paralegals that was at the firm, because now that AI is now there, it's only 1 paralegal now.
Yeah. Well, but see, if I was a paralegal, I would make sure
3 was.
No, I got you. But I know if I was a paralegal, I would make sure that I was totally trained in that, and everyone else was trained in that, and the lawyers wasn't, because they would always.
But the point of I'm making is that they had 3 paralegals, and now you only need 1. Well, so regardless of out of the 3, if they all learned it, you're still going to cut out two of them because you no longer need them because AI has replaced two of them.
Maybe not. If you want a bigger caseload, I mean, you're going to need paralegals to handle certain things. And so if you're smart as an attorney, depending on, what your focus is, most people have more than one focus. You can have a paralegal to handle that particular focus and take more clients in that focus and other focuses and
bring up Monica's last statement.
Policy moves too slow to keep up. Yep, we couldn't keep up before AI.
That to my point is that no matter how you spin it, AI is supposed to reduce, regardless of what the caseload is, to reduce human interaction with it.
I agree. That's the whole losing a job is. I agree.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If people think it's certain ways to create more jobs, AI is coming. Some people will lose some jobs. Yeah, it's here, right? It's here to stay, right? The goal is how can you? Quick point. Do we still use coal?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Coal, right? We don't use as much coal as we used to.
Mm-mm.
Why not? Because we got other fuel, right? Other ways to empower things, right? We got other things. And so a lot of people lost their jobs, right? Typewriter makers. There ain't a lot of them anymore, right? So do we blame the computer? What about the telegram? Right? What about the people who used to ride on horses to deliver mail? Well, I could go on and on for days to say like people who lost their jobs based on innovation, right? And so that has always been an issue, but there's other people, just like, say, for example, I gave the analogy of, when I spoke a lot about, what was it? Who was the company that Blockbuster, right? You had Netflix go to Blockbuster like, yo, there's some innovation coming. Like, I want to partner with you, X, Y, and Z. Blockbuster didn't see the big deal. That was Netflix who went to Blockbuster. Look at Netflix, right? And so it's a lot of people who lost their jobs that used to make DVDs and CDs and VHS tapes. Are we arguing for them? That's the thing, right? So it's about what can we do now? Now it's hardware that's being created that's holding the content or holding the music or holding the videos and all of that. So there's a way that we just need to think strategically and try to be as innovative as we can with our ideas to find ways to create more jobs. And I believe that actually utilizing AI can show you what jobs that potentially you need. I can almost guarantee people who's watching right now, if you're an attorney or you are, a paralegal, you can put in there and say, what jobs, what concentrations, what jobs can I create so that I can keep my job as a paralegal? And AI will spit it out and say, your attorney will always need you because you can do X, Y, and Z. And the amount of work that attorneys have, a lot of them don't have enough time to really dig into AI. So that's what a paralegal will potentially do. That's the reason for paralegal to do the job that the attorney is too busy to do. For the most part, they have a knowledge base in law, so they can speak to a degree, in absence of their boss, their attorney, right? But they it's the assistant of the attorney. Like, what the hell, right? And so that's where I'm at with it, man. That's where I'm at with it. Shout out to T in the building. Do you have a paralegal that works with you?
I have a clerical assistant, but they typically don't have any legal background or training. They just handle administrative paperwork and documents.
Okay, cool. Interesting. All right, cool.
We took over T's story.
I know, right? We just totally took over that story.
Was that it?
I know, right? This conversation on AI, right? Shout out to T. That's your story, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, so this is We Talk Weeklies after the talk on WPPMLP Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We talk weeklies after the talk with your boy Charles Bergen, the beautiful,
classy lady Sparkle,
and the beautiful
Tanisha Henry.
Spark. You was going to say something else?
Good night, everyone.
No doubt. No doubt. And if they were trained, those paralegals could become consultants and make more money anyway. There you go. Shout out to there you go. Shout out to Monica, right? Or create their own lesson plans and see how they can study harder or be more efficient with studying and become an attorney. Right. So it's a lot of stuff that AI can do. All right, y'all. We out here like last year. Peace.